This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. The Prime Minister hopes for a sale of the Grand Lucayan this year, again claiming there are a number of suitors. The Prime Minister also pledging to do what it takes for Grand Bahama, and the Attorney General defends a previous position on the Bail Act. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's here. It's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Friday, January 26th, 2024. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, my special guest co-host, DeAndre Cartwright, will be joining us, filling in for Stephen Hannon today. Also this morning, we are talking about dealing with family grief and loss, ways to help your loved ones and yourself get through difficult times. And then later in Morning Blend Business, we're discussing the top marketing trends on the horizon for 2024 in our monthly Morning Brand series. That's all straight ahead, but first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, Prime Minister Philip Davis says that he believes the government will sell Grand Lucayan Resort in Grand Bahama by the end of this year. The Prime Minister asked about the status of the resort yesterday, saying it's still on the market for sale and that they have a number of suitors for engagement. He says the Deputy Prime Minister is sifting through now to make some recommendations on whether to go with any of those suitors. Now, asked if he thinks the resort will be sold this year, the Prime Minister says he thinks so. In November 2022, the government said its deal to sell the Freeport property to Electra American Hospitality Limited for $100 million fell through. The Minutes administration bought Grand Lucayan from Hutchison Whampoa in August 2018 for $65 million and signed a sales agreement with Bahamas Ports Investment Limited, a joint partnership between Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines and the ITM Group in March 2020. But soon after coming to office in September 2021, the Davis administration canceled the sale agreement. Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper said the deal was a bad one. In May 2022, Cooper announced that the government agreed to sell Grand Lucayan to Electra, and Electra had committed a $300 million development to the property, but 6 months later, that deal fell through. On Grand Bahama, Prime Minister Davis says that he will do what has to be done to get the island back on track. He was leaving the 33rd annual Bahamas Business Outlook at Bahamar yesterday and was asked about the government's relationship with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. He said that he had no dispute with them, but asked about the government's decision to withdraw its bid to acquire the port. The Prime Minister said, quote, "I will do what I have to do to get Grand Bahama on the right track." The Davis administration has been engaged in a public back and forth with the GBPA in recent months. During the 2023-2024 budget debate last year, Davis announced that his government was going after the GBPA for monies he said is owed to the public treasury. The port, though, has said those claims are contested. A key witness in the corruption trial of the Long Island MP Adrienne Gibson rushed to the hospital by ambulance following her testimony yesterday. Inez Cargill Sherman became unwell after she testified about how she was constantly harassed by her then-boss Elwood Donaldson Jr. to make payments to vendors given contracts to maintain the grounds of various sites for the Water and Sewage Corporation. Gibson is on trial along with Donaldson, the corporation's former general manager, and Jerome Missick, Peaches Farquharson, and Joyanne Knowles, and his cousin, Rashay Gibson. Prosecutors contend that Adrienne Gibson illegally benefited from the contracts in the amount of $1.25 million and failed to declare his interest in them. Cargill Sherman had previously claimed that Donaldson terminated her after she refused to pay the contractors because she received verification that they'd completed their work. As Attorney General Ryan Pinder explained the proposed amendments to the Bail Act that were tabled in the House this week, he said yesterday his previous statement that there was no need to amend the law was in reference to a different situation. The Bail Act Amendment 2024 would allow for bail to be automatically revoked for accused criminals who commit a new offense. Pinder at the Office of the Prime Minister press briefing yesterday saying that from now on the only penalty for violating your bail conditions is jail. He said, quote, "This is being described as a hardline approach, but we believe that it is what is needed here in the service of justice and to protect our families and our communities." He says the mandatory revocation of bail under these circumstances is part of a larger aggressive strategy to combat crime. The proposed changes were announced amid ongoing worry over a surge in murders since the start of the year. Pinder said on January 11th that amendments to the Bail Act were unnecessary to handle the crime problem. Meanwhile, Pinder is saying that the proposed legislation for the establishment of a cannabis industry in the country will be tabled in the House of Assembly next month. He says they're still on pace to be able to table that compendium of legislation. The Minnis administration had also promised such legislation. While the Bahamas Commission on Marijuana was formed and draft bills were circulated, no legislation was ever tabled in Parliament, though. In its pre-election document, Our Blueprint for Change, the PLP also committed to bringing forward legislation for the industry. Two murder suspects had their bail revoked after a Supreme Court judge found that they had committed flagrant breaches of the terms of their bail. As a result of Senior Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson's decision, Donald Cox and Berkeley Fowler will remain in custody until their trials. Cox was charged with murder and attempted murder following a shooting in Bel Air Estates on May 29, 2020. He was released on $30,000 bail the following year and was required to wear an ankle monitor and electronic monitoring device as a condition of his release. Since being released, Cox was convicted twice of violating his bail and was arraigned last week for allegedly breaching his bail again. Meanwhile, Fowler was accused of the murder of his stepfather in 2012, and he was released on $20,000 bail during that same year. Fowler failed to appear for his trial before then Senior Justice Bernard Turner on August 21st, 2021. Additionally, Fowler admitted to the offenses of possession of a firearm and ammunition while on bail. Grant Thompson said that Fowler's guilty pleas showed that he possessed the propensity to commit serious offenses and was a potential threat to members of the public. Grant Thompson ruled that both Fowler and Cox were flight risks and not suitable candidates to remain on bail. Overseas, the United Nations top court is set to rule today on a call for Israel to halt its military offensive in Gaza when it issues a preliminary decision in a case accusing Israel of committing genocide in the tiny coastal enclave. The president of the International Court of Justice will read out the highly anticipated decision made by a panel of 17 judges in a case that goes to the core of one of the world's most intractable conflicts. Friday's ruling is only an interim one, though it could take years for the full case brought by South Africa to be considered. Israel rejects the accusation and has asked the court to throw the charges out. While the case winds its way through the court, South Africa has asked the judges, as a matter of extreme urgency, to impose so-called provisional measures to protect Palestinians in Gaza. Top of the South African list is a request for the court to order Israel to immediately suspend its military operations in and against Gaza. It is also asking for Israel to take reasonable measures to protect genocide or prevent genocide and allow access for desperately needed aid. And an unprecedented surge in gang violence is plaguing Haiti, with a number of victims killed, injured, and kidnapped. That number is more than doubled since last year, according to the UN Special Envoy for the conflict-racked Caribbean nation. In a grim briefing, that official telling the UN Security Council, quote, "I cannot overstress the severity of the situation in Haiti, where multiple protracted crises have reached a critical point." She says the 8,400 victims of gang violence documented by the UN office last year, a 122% rise from 2022, were mainly targeted by gangs in the capital of Port-au-Prince. Some 300 gangs control an estimated 80% of the capital and accounted for 83% of last year's killings and injuries. The UN says the tentacles of the gangs have reached northward into the Artibonite region, considered Haiti's food basket, and south of the capital's gangs conducted large-scale attacks to control key zones, systemically using sexual violence to exert control. That briefing coming more than 3 months after the Security Council approved the deployment of a multinational armed force led by Kenya to help bring gang violence under control. But the deployment of the Kenyan security officers has faced a series of hurdles. It finally got a green light from Kenya's parliament and Kenya's UN ambassador, telling the council that a court verdict in a case brought by an individual seeking to block the deployment would be announced today. If the court allows the deployment, Kenyan authorities tell the Associated Press that the first group of about 300 officers would be expected to arrive in Haiti by February. Kenya's contribution would eventually rise to 1,000 at the end of a 3,000-strong multinational force. Burundi, Chad, Senegal, Jamaica, and Belize have pledged troops for the multinational mission as well. In sports, Miami High School basketball players Valdez, VJ Edgecombe, and Donovan Freeman earning spots in the prestigious 2024 McDonald's All-American Games. The announcement made earlier in the week. They're both selected to play for the West team. The game is set for April 2nd in Houston, Texas. The game features young stars in the U.S. and Canada and has a long history of showcasing future NBA stars, champions, and Hall of Famers. Read more about it in today's Guardian Sports section. The Caribbean Gas Panthers remaining unbeaten in the New Providence Volleyball Association this season, improving to a perfect 12-0 win-loss record by turning back the Bamboo Shack Lady Warhawks. The three-time defending champion Panthers winning in 4 sets over the D.W. Davis Gym. They prevailed 18-25, 25-13, 25-23, and 25-24. Fans in the gym getting their money's worth as the Lady Warhawks gave the undefeated defending champs quite a challenge, pushing them in all of the sets with the exception of the second. You can read more about that in today's Guardian Sports section as well. From the NFL, 3 years ago, the Atlanta Falcons passed on a chance to make Raheem Morris their head coach. They didn't let him get away this time, though, even after an exhaustive search that included six-time Super Bowl winner Bill Belichick. The Falcons hired the Los Angeles Rams defensive coordinator Thursday, bringing back a familiar name who served as Atlanta's interim coach for the final 11 games of the 2020 season after Dan Quinn was fired. The 47-year-old Morris was hired by the Falcons after 14 candidates were interviewed, with Belichick the most notable among them. Earlier Thursday, the team conducted a second interview with Houston Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. In the end, though, the Falcons decided to go with an experienced coach who's been in the league all but one season going back to 2002, including a 3-year stint as head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He previously worked in Atlanta from 2015 to 2020. And from the Australian Open in tennis, a solitary loss in 11 semifinals of the Australian Open was nowhere near enough for Novak Djokovic to contemplate a generational change in tennis. Djokovic didn't get a look at a breakpoint during a 6-1, 6-2, 6-7, 6-3 loss to Jannik Sinner Friday that ended the 10-time Australian Open champion's unbeaten streak after making the Final Four at Melbourne Park. He commended the 22-year-old Italian for playing flawless tennis. It was Sinner's third win over Djokovic in their last 4 matches, but rated his own performance as the worst. As Djokovic now, the worst he could remember at a major. Djokovic saying that the tournament hasn't been up to his standard or criteria or the level that he normally would play, but he said this doesn't necessarily mean that it's the beginning of the end. He said, quote, "Let's see what happens in the rest of the season." The 36-year-old has been dealing with illness and a sore right wrist this month in Australia and clearly wasn't at his peak, by his own admission, and from observations across the net from Sinner as well. But no man has won more Grand Slam titles than Djokovic, who lifted his record to 24 with 3 titles last year when he went 27-1 in the majors tournaments. That's sports. And that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your weather for today, we've got Atlantic high pressure that continues to dominate the weather across the country with a moderate to fresh breeze and pleasant weather. Beachgoers should exercise caution, though, as there's a risk of rip currents along Atlantic exposures, and small craft operators should be alert in moderate sea swells. Your forecast for today for the northwest and central Bahamas: partly sunny, breezy, and mild with isolated showers. Fair and cool with passing showers tonight. For boaters, small craft advisories in effect. Winds east to southeast at 15 to 20 knots. Seas 4 to 6 feet, building to 8 feet in northerly, northeasterly swells. For the southeast Bahamas today, partly sunny, warm, and windy with the chance of a passing shower, becoming fair, windy, and mild tonight. Small craft operators should not venture far from port. Winds easterly at 20 knots, 20 to 25 knots. Seas 5 to 8 feet, building up to 10 feet in easterly swells. It is currently 74 degrees under partly cloudy skies right now in Nassau. Look for highs getting up to around 82 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius today. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. What's in store for your weekend? We'll tell you in your extended outlook coming up after traffic in just a bit. You're listening to Morning Blend. When we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on your home for fresh news and smart talk all day. Guardian Radio 96.9.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
Struggling to repay your loan? Let us help you get back on track with payment terms that suits your financial situation and improve your credit score and credit report with the Bahamas Credit Bureau. Inquire about our restructured loans today. Call us at 356-7764.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We are now inviting passengers on board for the new JetBlue CIBC First Caribbean credit card. Earn up to 30,000 bonus TrueBlue points with your first transaction and earn on everyday purchases. Plus, get up to 10,000 anniversary bonus points every year after. Please fasten your seatbelts and prepare for takeoff. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/JetBlue for more information on where Blue can take you.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. 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 Wake up, wake up.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line, powered by BTC 4224796. Standard text rate supply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Join me now, my special guest co-host today, filling in for Stephen Hanna, who's off working. We've got DeAndre Cartwright. Good morning again. It is great to have you with us.
Good morning, Dwight. Happy to be here.
We're going to get used to this.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah?
hope so.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
I love being back here at home. Guardian 96.9.
It is your home, definitely. So glad to have you. And we're going to have a lot of wonderful conversations today.
Yeah.
Coming up this morning, we are going to be talking about loss, dealing with grief and loss. We know a lot of people are dealing with that. It's been a violent year, and we've lost quite a few people so far to murder, but there are also people dying all the time from many other things. We've got a high cancer rate in the country as well, and a lot of people are dealing with loss. Some tips. Dr. E's going to be with us this morning, and she's going to be in the studio with us this morning. We're looking forward to that conversation today. Later in business, our morning brand, our monthly series is back, and we're talking about what's expected to be the top marketing trends of this new year, 2024. So a lot to get to on this Friday morning. Let's begin, though, with what's in the news. Okay, in the news, a lot to talk about this morning. Let's go through a couple of these. There's some we want to spend a little more time on. But the big headline in the Nassau Guardian, Prime Minister hopes for sale of Grand Lucayan this year. Every year we're hearing that they're hoping to sell it this year.
You have to keep hope alive.
And
really
you have
do.
to be consistent.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, again, we're told there are a number of suitors, as we were told last year and the year before. But they're hoping to sell it this year.
You know, with these larger purchases, it's important to actually keep the interest alive, not only for the sale itself, but for the local economy. And then the hopes of the persons in that environment to give them something to look forward to. But the reality is, like what you said, there has to be some traction, some movement, some tangible proof that there's something's really going to happen. Because otherwise, it's a promise year after year, administration after administration.
Yeah. What happened to the suitors last year and the ones the year before, right? What fell through? What didn't work? What do they want that doesn't mesh with what we want, and vice versa?
You know, it almost sounds like a marriage proposal. So perhaps
Right.
their interests are not aligned.
Right, right.
So now you have to go to another one. So
That's right.
they're dating.
Yes, exactly. So this could take a long time. We've got a very picky daddy here, trying to make sure that you're the right one for his daughter. Oh boy. Well, we'll see. We'll keep you posted. We'll keep asking. The Prime Minister says they're going to do whatever it takes for Grand Bahama, though. We may come back to this one because I'm not too sure if folks are really willing to do what may be needed to grant the island more autonomy. I keep saying that real local government.
Oh, this is what we were talking about the last time I was here.
I believe so. Probably every time you're going to be here, this will come up.
No, honestly, because I think not just Grand Bahama, but a lot of the family islands would
absolutely.
benefit from more autonomy, from more independence to be able to do what they can for their own context. Because the reality is that they have different economic, social, environmental differences that need a specific tailoring. But yeah, no,
And
let's
they
talk
cannot
about
wait for Nassau to make a decision about them.
Oh boy,
right?
if I could tell you.
They cannot wait for that.
Hey,
Right?
as
That is holding everybody back.
Well, again, you know, with the centralization of government, these are the challenges that are involved with that. But we haven't, I don't think that we truly explored what it means to decentralize governance to our context, to our family islands. If we look at the structures that are in place right now, they're simply not working as well as they could. Not to say they're not working.
They're not working.
I'm
saying that. I'm saying that.
Okay.
Dwight said it. Right.
But it can benefit from improvement. And again, from the family island context, and as a Long Island woman myself, I have seen what needs to happen, and it's simply not happening. And the reality is that we're seeing as a country, and I really encourage persons to really study our statistics and look at the shifts in the movements of people from our family islands. And even if you don't want to look at the statistics, look at the different election data, the sizes of the constituencies on the family islands, and how the New Providence constituencies have grown. It's not necessarily because of birth rate, it's because people are coming in to New Providence from the family islands. And a part of that is that they literally cannot find work. There's hardly any infrastructure. There's no availability of the resources that they were required to actually have families existing properly. And if I were to looking at my contacts on Long Island, if you don't have an essential business, if you're not working for the government, then what are you doing truly?
My goodness.
So I would love to hear more about what we're going to do from Grand Bahama, but then again,
won't hear from them.
I want to hear more about what we're going to do for all of the family islands, because the Bahamian on Grand Bahama is just as important as the one in the south in Inagua that's here on New Providence where what was being done.
All right, so let's look at this story really quickly. So this is the Prime Minister on the sidelines of Bahamas Business Outlook, which was yesterday, asked about Grand Bahama and the Grand Lucayan, right? But all we know is that there's been criticism of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and that might be all well and good. But what is the plan for the island? As I said, my view is we can look at some of if you don't want to look at the U.S., which is a pretty decent model when it comes to decentralized government and giving states and cities more autonomy, you can look right within the Commonwealth. Look at Canada and Australia. They're perfect examples of this. The federal government comes in when there are big problems. But the state or the province, whatever you want to call it, there's a governor or premier who is elected by the people and working for that province or state. And even on a local level, there will be mayors and city councils that are managing the affairs of the cities and making the decisions for those areas.
But the thing is, Dwight, think about it though. When you're spouting facts right now, I think what is not being willing to be admitted here is that will require efficiency.
Are we afraid of that word?
I think we may be.
Okay.
I think we may be, because the reality, there are examples, there are frameworks, there are effective models that are in existence that we can look at, we can mirror, or we can tailor, and we should tailor
Take a
for our
piece
own
from here and there, right?
Which we have done for other things. So why is it that we want to run away from it? I recall, I think it was a couple of years ago, and again, this wasn't in necessarily a wider context, but it was said by a politician that there simply isn't enough money to replicate the resources on every family island. And so ever since then, like, I've been waiting to hear more about what seems to be an unspoken policy about centralization, i.e. moving people to New Providence, which is happening whether we want to admit it or not, again, because of the lack of resources.
It seems like the plan. Clearly that's what somebody wants.
The long term, right? Because again, if you look at, especially for those islands in the south that have been hit by hurricanes, really, what have we done to rebuild? When we look at Grand Bahama and Abaco, and any other island that has been hit by a hurricane, the rebuilding efforts are driven primarily either by the people of that island,
right.
And sometimes, they get the support of the government, of the external persons, but if the desire of the people of that island are not there, then it's not going to happen. And we've seen that with other islands that have been hit.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at the Grand Bahama situation, and then we're looking at the back and forth, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, this, that, it's almost like we're playing ping pong with the issue and we're not addressing it.
And with the people.
Yes, and meanwhile, they're feeling this each and every day. I mean, if you look decades ago, Grand Bahama was booming. Why isn't, what's going on?
Yeah.
How can we address this? And I mean, when you look at it, we take a step back. Away from the Grand Lucayan situation, it isn't just that. You look at their local economy. We look at the other hotels that are existing, the different plants that have been closing down. I mean, they just lost, what was it?
Pharmachem.
And that's the fourth largest employer or something I heard. Somebody was saying
it's up
something
there,
right?
definitely, yeah.
And it's almost like, what's going on? How are we buttressing that? But then also when they have the severe hits on their economy, how are we trying to help them rebuild from there? Or is it that we need to truly look, where are the investments truly happening? Here on New Providence.
Yeah.
Here on New Providence. And every other family island feels that.
Well, that's where the people are, right? And the people who are making the most noise about the jobs. And so, and where most of the MPs are. So do the math and you can see.
We had more. Do you realize that what was it? How many elections ago? We had less constituencies, I recall. Like for the last time, I think it's been about 30 something, and then before then, I think that had increased by maybe 2, 3, or something like that.
Right,
we
we
keep
were in the
adding
40s
more.
at some
and if we
point.
look at smaller countries such as ourselves, we have so many more members of parliament compared to other countries with similar contexts. But when you look at the efficacy, what's really happening?
Yeah. Well, and the story is all mainly about the back and forth, as we mentioned, right, between the government and the GBPA. They keep saying they're going to do whatever it takes for Grand Bahama. We have no idea what that means. There is no plan, and that's part of the problem there. And as I've said before, we keep waiting for some investor to come in to tell us what they are going to do, as opposed to looking out for people who can do what we want to see done for Grand Bahama. I need somebody to do this. Can you do it? Yes, I can do it. We're not doing that at all. We're like, anybody got a plan? Anybody out there? Come. Give us your money to do what you want to do.
But so going back to the foreign direct investment model and whatnot, that seems as though we're not willing to really branch out or even, I guess, repurpose, redevelop that.
Modify it some way.
Exactly, so that it actually applies to the current context, because we have moved so far from when we first started doing that. It's been decades since that was first introduced. How are we modifying that to this present day? And the reality is, the monies that were used several decades ago for what they were used for is not necessarily the situation in which we are right now.
Exactly.
Because you have complexities of the economy that have arisen because the FDI did not work in the past. But I wonder if we're listening to our economists, if we're listening to the persons who have been studying these things, and are we breaking that down so the persons can truly appreciate and understand what's going on, or are we playing a game of smoke and mirrors?
Well, this model that we have right now works for somebody.
Well, again,
Somebody's
what was it?
benefiting.
What is the saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix
Don't
it.
fix it, and that is the.
But it isn't just the FDI.
The true
It's
model
so many things
for the
inside our
Bahamas.
country.
Yeah.
That's we're not going to fix it because it's benefiting someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Some
And-
very powerful people. So, yeah, we'll wait to see how this goes. And let's hear what you have to say about it, folks. The phone lines are lit up. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Call us from Grand Bahama, 242-300-5720. Why are we afraid of decentralization? Are we afraid of efficiency? Answer those questions. Caller, what say you? Good morning.
Good morning, Dwight. How are you?
Doing well.
Yeah, two things I would like to say. Firstly, I watched the news last night, and the Grand Bahama Authority was talking about they have a lot of investments. They're trying to get into Freeport, billions of dollars of investment. So I hope that the government and them will work together and hopefully getting some more investors in Freeport to help the economy.
Is that the first time you've heard that? Because I've heard that every year from I was a
Well,
child.
that's the first time I heard, from me personally, that the Grand Bahama Authority, the spokesman last night, spoke about it.
Oh, yeah?
But
Okay.
they are making efforts, despite the back and forth between them and the government, but they said they are making efforts and helping the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Another matter that concerned me, and I could have the same concern the Prime Minister's wife had the other day about what's happening in urban and where are the professionals to help these kids in the community. There's some time ago, urban was at the point where they had professionals in their various districts, but now they're all gone. Those persons who used to work for urban, they were all, especially the professional ones, they were all sent packing home. And I spoke with the Minister of State some time ago about it, and I told her, I said, if you remove these professionals out of urban, right, we're going to have some problems. Now I see what the Prime Minister's wife is talking about, and I support her. Because last night on the news, they had the police representing urban renewal. The police really is not supposed to do any programs in urban. There was no representative from urban renewal from Nassau Village. You see, there's a time for politics, and there's a time for us to help these communities, because all this crime we have going on now, we should have professionals in the urban office. All those, I partnership with urban for years, and we've lost ground. And I hope the new minister now, Lorota, will try to find a way to regenerate and revitalize the urban movement, because the Minister of State at the time, she is completely lost about it, and that is why we are warning what's going on in urban, because they could help curtail some of the problems in these communities. So I hope she's listening, and I hope the minister who's now responsible can try to bring back some experience, consults and stuff to help these young people. My wife was a part of it. I was a part of it. I volunteer, okay? But we got to keep politics out of certain things, and now it's hurting us. And I support the Prime Minister's wife. Where are you? Where are these people? Where are these professionals? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's take another call. Good morning, caller. You are on the air.
Quality days, this voice, along with you and your guest, right?
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
We need justice, law, and order in this country, the Bahamas. Dwight, who's your guest, man?
Deandra Cartwright.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
But what Freeport really need? 3 members of Parliament in the government in the House of Assembly, right? What it shows that those people that are in the House of Assembly for Freeport, they cannot communicate, or they're not communicating in the manner in which Freeport needs to be communicated. See, that's why they're not moving. You see, and something like that, you're holding the poor people back.
They do seem to be stuck in a box, absolutely. And we need the it's a cliche, but the out of the box thinking here. Although you don't have to go too far.
The thing about it, I mean, we're looking at representation, right? First of all, we have to see why do we have the representation again? Is it being effective? And then if we're looking at the issues, could it be addressed by legislation, by the exact purpose of a member of parliament? See, again, I think we tend to dilute the problem, the situation, and try to look at pockets that we can fix while dancing around the actual issue.
Yeah.
And with Grand Bahama, it's not just one thing. Again, that's why I'm saying let's take a step back from what's happening with the Grand Lucayan, because there are so many different things that are happening there. And if we put the focus on one thing, then we completely forget that these other things are going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You still have persons on Grand Bahama and again on other family islands, even here on New Providence, who are battling hunger, who do not have electricity, who do not have a job.
Yeah.
Like these things are happening. We have the social ills, and going to what the caller said about needing to have professionals in urban and whatnot. Have we actually examined how many persons do we have in the profession present in this country? How are we actually compensating them? Because then that's another thing. How are they being treated? Is their advice being adhered to, listened to, and are they able to augment, improve the policies that they are expected to implement?
Yeah.
Like, as working professionals, I mean, if they're going to be inside an environment, we have to also look at why did they leave in the first place? If we had the urban model and it was we had the professionals there, why did they leave? Why is it that we don't have them? Why did we put the police where we had trained mental health professionals? Questions I have.
Yeah. And again, back with Grand Bahama, just look at the parts of the island, west and east of the Freeport-Lucaya area, right, that fall under the central government, and you can see that nothing is working there at all, right? I dare say it might be worse than some other family islands.
No, I just was there, I think, a few months ago, and the difference really is drastic.
It's unbelievable.
It's drastic,
Like
honestly.
you walk across the street and essentially and you're like,
It's
whoa.
a different world. It's
Whoa.
it's literally a different world. And similarly, as you say, it's present. I guess that illustration, that visual, is present on other islands. Even here, you go on one part of this
absolutely.
island.
Absolutely.
You're in one world, and the
Yeah.
other one, you go to another one, literally right
Across the street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, how are you surviving like this? And again, we have to go back to the reality that people are expected to survive in environments that others will refuse to put themselves into, or even think about the reality that those persons are facing on a daily basis.
My goodness. Okay, a couple more calls and we'll get to your text messages, and we got to take a break. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dwight, and to your supporting guest,
Yes. Hi, Deandra.
Deandra. Good morning, Deandra.
Good
Dwight,
morning.
I just want to throw this one at you to see if it makes any sense. Now, I am thinking that the Port Authority should be representing some form of local government in Grand Bahama. Is that correct, to go down that road, or I can abandon that route?
I think it should be a municipal government, right? With all the positions there should be elected positions.
Okay, which means
That's-
you would have some power.
We would have the people there would have a power to remove the folks who are not working, who aren't making a difference. If you have had a failed term, you got to go. And whoever, the mayor and the city council that have better ideas, fine, we'll give you 3, 4, 5, however long we want to. And you go.
Well, that would be an improvement. But what I'm saying here in Texas, the Texans want a fence, and the government is tearing it down. Would we end up with a situation where the local governor may see something, but then the central government can just tear it down and we keep going back and forth? I mean, how do you avoid that?
Hey, that's possible. But, if the people have a problem with that, then they vote the governor out or vote the central government, the federal government out, whatever. But those things will happen, but you can't let that hold you back. That to me is a sign of progress compared to what we are seeing on many of our family
With
islands.
that, I agree. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. We can only wish to have such problems. Oh, my.
I mean, again, going back to what the caller just said about, having a conflict between central government and local governments and federal governments and whatnot. You have to look at how the legislation is set up, like who has carriage of certain policies, of certain levels of governance, and do we don't have that. Just do you
We
know?
need our MPs to get it together and come up, write the better legislation that will protect all these
and
things.
they can do that
and prevent these things.
It's literally within their purview.
That's their
to
number one
write
job.
I think sometimes we have to remind of what jobs may require.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think
okay.
so. I've always been an advocate of that. You know, like actually, let's actually study what is a member of parliament supposed to do. Like, if you look at it, we have how many pieces of legislation, how many pieces of documentation on a national level that speak to the role of a parliamentarian, but does the average citizen actually realize that? Because I think
Does the average MP?
Well, okay.
Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, morning, Ben. What's up, man?
Hi.
Morning to you and your guest.
Good morning.
I know one thing for sure with what Grandmama don't need. The Grandmama don't need the government involvement in the Port Authority, nor do they need the Ministry of Grandmama. I believe the Ministry of Grandmama is the worst thing that happened for Grandmama since they opened that department, since they opened that office. Give an example. Me and some investors, some international investors, we applied to the Grandmama Port Authority to get a business license. It's already an existing business, and they sold it. We bought the company, and we applied for a new business license. It took us 7 months to get that business license. Grandmama Port Authority had to approve it, and then I had to go to the Ministry of Grandmama. 7 months. So imagine a foreign investor trying to invest in Grandmama. Imagine the frustration.
Wow. Yep.
So I honestly believe the government don't need to be involved in the Port Authority. And I believe that the Ministry of Grandmama is the worst thing that happened for us. And Grandmama. I'm a Ghanaian, so I know this. This government is just a bottleneck. Everything that comes through the government gets choked up. They get delayed, and just frustration.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Totally agree with you. I don't know. And again, the problem with this Minister of Grand Bahama model, we really don't know what the role is of the Minister of Grand Bahama. But why doesn't every island have a minister then? Right? What's that about? Okay. If you must do this, which you shouldn't, because again, we need to replace all these island administrators. This is Dwight's view with elected governors or premiers, whatever term you want to call them, and have them have some autonomy and authority over the island.
You see, that's
why
you're scaring people when you say it like that. The persons who actually have the ability to affect change when you say that, because all the visual again going is that, oh, you're taking the power away from me.
Okay. Oh well, become a governor then. Become a premier if you want the power.
I remember.
And again, the other islands need to say, why not us? Why don't we have a minister if this is supposed to be effective?
No, but listen.
So it shows you.
Listen.
It shows you where the central government is.
When the Ministry of Grand Bahama was introduced, I recall there were other islands asking.
Oh, yeah?
Why
are they
is it
quiet
that
now?
Why do they? Anyway. But I wonder though, because when they were introduced, there was this argument, right, as to what would be the exact purpose of the Ministry of Grand Bahama when you had five
whole MPs.
Right. So it was like, what are they doing? What is the role there exactly? Or is it that they are literally performing what's supposed to be their local government? But then what is local government doing as well? So again, I have so many questions.
And we've been asking these for
Years.
This is three administrations have had ministers of Grand Bahama.
Okay, but then how many other questions from several administrations we've also had, not just for Grand Bahama, that we haven't gotten responses to?
My goodness.
It continues.
I think we have questions from before independence, still not answered. Let's take this call and then we're going to take a break. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dwight.
Hi.
Good morning, Ms. Cartwright.
Good morning.
What a lovely, lovely voice. I can listen to you all day.
Oh,
I'm calling about Grand Bahama. The Prime Minister in some of his speeches during the by-election, West Bahama promised a whole lot of stuff, so they can be very optimistic about what's going to happen for Grand Bahama. Cheek.
Who can be?
As far as people who are trying to get business licenses, I've got a tenant, and she's been trying to get a license through the ministry. There is of the ministry, and she is not since October. And up to today's date, she has not been able to get her license. There's a whole lot of red tape, that you go through. This is corruption. Thank you, Dwight.
Okay, wow.
I have a question, Dwight.
Oh, boy.
And I haven't had my coffee yet, so forgive me if this may seem like a silly question, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in order to get a business license in this country, there are procedures, protocols. I would assume there's some sort of policy document, legislation even. So in the case of the introduction of the Ministry of Grand Bahama into obtaining such things, then were those policies and pieces of legislation updated accordingly, and would it only apply to businesses on Grand Bahama? I mean, I'm thinking, like, is this a legal complexity? Does it exist? Like, how did that happen? Like, if that exists on Grand Bahama, why isn't it happening? If it's happening in the rest of the country, why is it there a difference on Grand Bahama? So I get what the caller is saying. You know what? I'm going to start a question sheet.
Oh,
I
boy.
think that's what, like, literally.
Okay, you're gonna do it on a computer, right? You're not gonna write on paper because you will run out of paper.
No, it's an infinite list.
You're gonna run out of paper. Oh boy, let's read these messages as we go to the break. This person says here, there's nothing going to happen for that hotel until there's an international airport in Grand Bahama. Oh boy.
Shots
That's
fired.
that's pretty serious and a
No,
very good point.
But don't we have international airports on all of our family islands?
I mean, they have an international airport on Grand Bahama, but I mean, it's more like a, I don't know what to call that. But I get the point they're making, though. That's a very good point.
I get it too. I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah. You can look at the local government in the UK also. The City of London has a very good local government system. It is governed by a mayor and a local assembly.
That has been going for centuries.
Also, Turks Islander said that he is glad they did not join the Bahamas when it became independent. He said the island would have died if they were part of the Bahamas today.
Oh, wow.
That is a very good point.
That'll be an interesting
You better believe that. You know that. That would have been one of the least populated, least developed islands in the entire country.
Look at the level of development, the more south you go.
Yes, absolutely. That's
It decreases.
so sad.
It's such a diminishing level of development, the lower down you go, which is why I'm saying if the people don't push it themselves, it's not going to happen. So sorry.
Can't be a couple people in Nassau on the radio. We need our Bahamian people to push for this.
Yes.
This person says this, so the government spent months going back and forth in a spat about buying the Grand Bahama Port Authority only to hear the president say it's not for sale. It's good to see the government has finally got back to real business of trying to sell the hotel instead of bloviating down a fruitless path. Okay. I agree with the previous caller who stated positions in government need to be depoliticized. We're sending professionals with the institutional knowledge home every time a new administration comes in. This is seriously hurting our country and impeding our progress. I was a government appointee some years ago, and I saw the problem. We need to move away from this model. Okay. And if you want to know what will happen to local government, look at the PAC committee, the Auditor General, the independent prosecutor, look at the fire directors. No, I'm not going to read the rest of your message, and you're incorrect. Not if we do the model of local government we have now, but that's not what we're talking about.
No.
Right?
No.
Not what we're talking about at all. So, no. And again, the Bahamas is special, but not that special. That local government, the way it's done everywhere else in the world, would fail here. It ain't that special.
No.
So let's stop. We'll be back. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Rest and move.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. The European Union and the UN Human Rights Office are weighing in on Alabama's first-in-the-nation execution with nitrogen gas. The EU and the UN say the death penalty violates the right to life. The jury in Donald Trump's defamation trial in New York will hear closing arguments today. The AP's Jake Offenhartz is in New York, where the former president testified briefly yesterday.
He was only allowed to answer yes or no questions. And Trump bristled at this. He did not like being told what to do. And this really came to a head before he even took the witness stand. He was muttering under his breath. He was shaking his head at the judge. As he left the witness stand, he rolled his eyes. Then he addressed the courtroom and he said, quote, "This isn't America."
The trial will determine how much more, if anything, Donald Trump might owe the writer E. Jean Carroll for his comments about her after she accused him of sexually abusing her years ago. I'm Rita Foley.
It is time for your first look at traffic for the morning, brought to you by RBC. Visit rbc.com/Caribbean for more information. In real-time traffic this morning, we've got, as usual, Mile Butler Highway, your hot spot. Heavy traffic from Fire Trail straight up to Tonic Williams-Darling Highway. That area near the roundabout is congested as well, both east and westbound on Tonic Williams-Darling Highway. Gladstone Road, also busy for you right now, south of the Fire Trail intersection, straight up to JFK Drive, Bahamar Boulevard, and the roundabout there. And Blue Hill Road, also seeing heavy traffic from Carmichael up to Independence Drive, especially north of Soldier Road. Independence Drive, both directions, heavy traffic, but especially westbound. And East Street near Soldier Road, that intersection is busy, especially northbound and north of Soldier Road. Then we've got Robinson Road, slow-moving traffic between Soldier and Old Trail. And Soldier is busy on the way to the intersection with Bernard Wolf and Village. Eastern Road, you're not moving much west of Sans Souci up to about Johnson Road. Heavy, slow-moving traffic there. And then Prince Charles Drive at the major intersections, including near Commonwealth Boulevard and Elizabeth Estates, and then Fox Hill. That's what we're seeing right now in your real-time traffic. Some building traffic on Carmichael as well to Coral Harbor Road. We'll have another update for you after the 8 o'clock news. Morning Blend traffic brought to you by RBC. Learn more at rbc.com/Caribbean. And it's time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Easy Car Sales. We've got the Atlantic high-pressure system that we've been telling you about all week. That continues to dominate weather across the country today with a moderate to fresh breeze and pleasant weather. Beachgoers should exercise caution, though. There's a high risk of rip currents along Atlantic exposed shorelines, and small craft operators should be alert in moderate sea swells. For today, for the northwest and central Bahamas, partly sunny, breezy, and mild with isolated showers, fair and cool with passing showers tonight. For the southeast Bahamas, partly sunny, warm, and windy with the chance of passing showers, becoming fair, windy, and mild tonight. For the northwest and central Bahamas, small craft advisories in effect, and for the southeast Bahamas, small craft operators should not venture far from port. Temperatures today getting up to around 82 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius for highs. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. In your extended outlook, that high pressure will begin to weaken as it treks east ahead of a cold front that enters the northwest Bahamas on Sunday. Winds will increase and seas will build in the northwest Bahamas after the front passes. This could bring some different conditions over the next few days into the new week, so look out for that. But ahead of that front Saturday, partly sunny, mild, and breezy with isolated showers. Sunday, partly sunny, mild, and breezy with isolated showers, becoming cloudy and with increasing shower activity in the northwest Bahamas by the evening as that front begins to roll through. Again, a big change coming for next week. But that is your Morning Blend weather check. Brought to you by Easy Car Sales. Unleash the power of electricity. Test drive an electric vehicle at Easy Car Sales and discover the instant torque, quiet ride, and the power of an EV. Visit easy242.com and plug into the evolution of transportation.
Whether you're looking for your first or new home or even using your existing home as equity, RBC understands that your journey to home ownership is unique and your mortgage financing should reflect that. That is why at RBC we have dedicated mortgage specialists that provide sound advice and helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. Best of all, the RBC mortgage team is mobile, flexible, and will meet you almost anywhere. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist.
Foreign Currency brings you the African Giant, live in concert, Burna Boy. Burna Boy performing live. Saturday, February 17th, taking place at Clifford Park. Also performing Rich Homie Quan, 38 Afri, Tro Capone, Maxi Belly, and more. Renegade 2024. Get tickets now. This one is a must that you're there.
There's a new electric vehicle in town. The Jack brand of SUVs, trucks, sedans, and commercial vans. Available only at Easy Car Sales, home of the fully electric vehicle. For a powerful, smooth ride at a fraction of the cost to drive, leave the pump behind and hit the road with Jack. Visit easy242.com to see our brand new Jack models and drop into Easy Car Sales for a test drive. It'll have you singing. Hit the road with Jack, and don't you pump gas no more.
At RBC, we know buying your new ride is a very personal experience with many decisions to make. That's why we leave the car choice to you and ask that you leave the rest to one of our RBC Auto Finance specialists, trained to provide sound advice and helpful solutions to make your dream car a reality. The RBC Auto Finance team is mobile, flexible, and will meet you almost anywhere. Visit rbc.com/lovemyride to connect with an RBC Auto Finance specialist in your area.
Earning zero interest on your savings at the bank? With as little as $100, you can start earning interest on your money while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank with the CFAL Savings Express Plan. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
Wherever you're headed, the Custom Computers Know-How team is standing by to help guide you in the East and the West. We now have 2 convenient locations on Patton Street in Palmdale and our newest store in the Caves Village Shopping Plaza through the Blake Road entrance. Discover the latest products by top international brands and the knowledge you need to unleash tomorrow's technology today. Drop by Custom Computers out east or out west. We're open Saturdays from 10 till 4.
What would you do with extra cash? Plan a trip.
Overhaul my wardrobe.
With CIBC First Caribbean, you can get comfy with savings on your mortgage cost. Buy or build your home or switch your mortgage to us and get up to US $1,000 off the loan application fee. Up to US $2,000 off home insurance. With up to US $10,000 towards switching cost, your pockets will be comfy too. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/get comfy for more information. Conditions apply.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Way out west, there live this dame. She'll put any dancer to shame. If you want to watch her dance, want to watch her prance, get her in a circle, watch that lady dance. She got a west end move, she got a west end groove, she got a west end move, she got a west end groove. She say, come here, let me show you how we does go. Cause when you come to West End, you might meet old Joe. Now here is a story about this man.
We're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with DeAndre Cartwright on this Friday. Okay, so we will just have some time to read these messages before we go to the news. And when we get back, I want to really quickly get to the Attorney General defending his previous position on the Bail Act and how that's different. But the language, folks, I need everyone to pay attention to the language of what's being said to see what's what here. Okay, so back to the text messages. This person says here, we're talking about Grand Bahama. If they cannot get, unfortunately, the cabinet has the final say in international investigations into Freeport. Or do you mean investments? Maybe you meant investments. Yeah. A lot of Grand Bahamians do not realize this fact. Grand Bahamians should be angry with the central government for stymieing international investments there. If they cannot get a peace or if money doesn't change hands, nothing's going to happen. Oh, my Lord. Speaking of local government, what about the Family Island Commissioners? Do they serve the same purpose? Well, the commissioners, the island administrators, they are central government appointees, right? So, they often aren't even from that island. Yes. They are there to make sure what the government wants done gets done. Mm-hmm. That's not what I'm talking about, and I don't think we need that at all. You need
and they're expected to work with the quote-unquote local government, which are comprised of persons from the community. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine the challenges that arise if the persons from the community do not have the same mindset or hopes and dreams as the person sent there from central government to implement central government's will. And then I think that it becomes even more complex if that island MP is not represented necessarily in the governing party. Because that just adds a whole level of difference inside there.
Does that happen? I guess it does.
Well, again, you're talking to a Long Island.
Yeah, so you know for sure. I'm sure. It happens. All right, as we go to the break, this one here. You all know the answer to why there is a minister to Grand Bahama. Power. The less backbenchers, the more control for the emperor. Yeah, well. And where is that getting everybody? This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. A whole lot more coming up after the news.
Way out west, there live this dame. She'll put any dancer to shame. If you want to watch a dance, want to watch a prance, get her in a circle, watch that lady dance. She got a West End move. She got a West End groove. She got a West End move.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/Morning Blend 969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 422-4796. Standard text rates apply. And now at 8:24, time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Sherwin-Williams Paints. Here's what's happening. We've got Atlantic high pressure that continues to dominate weather across the country today with moderate to fresh breezes and relatively pleasant conditions. Beachgoers, though, should exercise caution. There's a risk of rip currents along Atlantic exposed shorelines, and small craft operators should be alert in moderate sea swells. Today, for the Northwest Bahamas and the Central Islands, look for partly sunny, breezy, and mild conditions with isolated showers. Fair and cool with passing showers tonight. Small craft advisory in effect. For the Southeast Bahamas, partly sunny, warm, and windy with a chance of passing showers, becoming fair, windy, and mild tonight. Small craft operators should not venture far from port. Temperature-wise today, we're looking at highs getting up to around 82 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. Currently in Nassau, it's about 75 degrees under partly cloudy skies. In your extended outlook for the weekend, we've got high pressure that's going to begin to weaken as it treks eastwards ahead of a cold front that will enter the Northwest Bahamas on Sunday. Winds will increase and the seas will build in the Northwest Bahamas after the front passes. So, for Saturday, partly sunny, mild and breezy with isolated showers. Sunday, ahead of that front, partly sunny, mild, and breezy with isolated showers becoming cloudy with increasing shower activity in the northwest Bahamas by the evening. And that cold front's going to usher in a wave of much cooler, more comfortable conditions well into next week. Things begin to warm up by Friday. That's your morning blend weather check brought to you by Sherwin-Williams Paints. Sherwin-Williams Paints has you covered for all your painting and equipment needs. Visit Sherwin-Williams Paints online or in store today. And we've got another check of your traffic for the morning brought to you by RBC. Visit rbc.com/Caribbean for more information. In your real-time traffic right now, it's still Marla Butler Highway. That's your hot spot. Heavy traffic from Fire Trail, well south of Fire Trail, Bellet Road, really, straight up to Tonic William Starling Highway. And that traffic's going to extend as you approach the roundabout with Sports Center Road and into the six-legged roundabout. That's northbound there, eastbound on JFK Drive. A bit of congestion southbound on New Providence Highway and Farrington Road also looking busy for you at this hour. Over on Gladstone Road, it's busy still from well south of the Fire Trail intersection straight up to JFK Drive, Bahamar Boulevard. And building traffic on Carmichael westbound to Coral Harbor Road as well. West Bay Street, a bit of congestion near Saunders Beach as you approach the roundabout with New Providence Highway. And Independence Drive, heavy traffic both directions, east and westbound, between the roundabouts of Blue Hill Road and East Street. East Street looking busy for you near that roundabout, north and south of it. And Robinson Road still bumper to bumper between Soldier and Old Trail if you're heading westbound, and Soldier busy straight through to the intersection with Bernard, Wolf, and Village. Village also busy northbound near the schools in the area. And we've got Eastern Road, heavy traffic east of Fox Hill to about Johnson Road if you're heading westbound. Bernard Road also westbound traffic heavy near the schools in the area. That's what we're looking at right now. That's your real-time traffic and your morning blend traffic alert brought to you by RBC. Learn more at rbc.com/Caribbean.
Here's the Sher-winning art store moment from Shelley and Dee Dee.
We're the only full art store in the Bahamas. If we don't have it, we make a list, and trust me, our boss can get that. If you need that, he can get that. You can find sketchbooks, acrylics, the canvases in all sizes, stencils. We have the Angelus that they use on shoes and letters. We're the only persons in Nassau that carries the Montana spray. We have the Krylon sprays, watercolor and paints, the oil, chalk paints, the alcohol paint, metallic paints, the little Floetrol, and we have cleaning products for the artists, thinning products for the artists, and Crayola colors, and glitters, pencils, the Posca markers, and pastels, oil, and the acrylic pastels, dyes. Oh yeah, we also have airbrush paint. I don't forget that part of the movie. Gift sets, hobby craft,
Oil shrimp,
clays.
stew shrimp, shrimp gumbo. But art supplies. We have a lot of them. Sherwin-Williams Art Store. Find colour in every day.
Well, it's not the hour. The sergeant's in the place that we come in with power. All hands in the air.
Wrap this up. Ain't no more working today.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Deandra Cartwright on this Friday. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to be talking with Dr. E about family grief and loss. We're going to get into that in just a bit. Really quickly, we wanted to mention this story, Deandra, with the Attorney General, who yesterday was defending his position on the Bail Act. You remember a few weeks ago he said there's no reason to adjust it because, hey, it covers what needs to be done.
And the Prime Minister came out with with a different interpretation.
Very different, even different from what the National Security Minister was saying a few days ago as well. Rachel Scott writing about it. As Attorney General Ryan Pinder explained the proposed amendments to the Bail Act that were tabled in the House on Wednesday, he said yesterday his previous statement that there was no need to amend the law was in reference to a different situation. The Bail Act Amendment 2024 would allow for bail to be automatically revoked for accused criminals who commit a new offense. Now listen to the language here. So this is what Pinder is saying. Pinder said at the Office of the Prime Minister press briefing yesterday, from now on, the only penalty for violating your bail conditions is jail. Okay. Violating your bail conditions.
Okay.
That, right?
Violating
your bail conditions. Does that mean if you are accused of another crime, does that count as violating your bail conditions? If you are accused,
I would assume because is there some sort of thought that you committed another crime?
But you're accused. You can't prove it yet.
No.
You're-
And then also,
you're
how long
accused.
does that take?
And maybe I'm still within the curfew period. Maybe I'm within the area I'm supposed to go. But you think I was involved in something, but you haven't convicted me yet.
No.
But
But
what
that-
if I didn't break my bail conditions?
Oh boy.
Interesting.
Things that make you go,
So, and that's happening, right? People, we just saw that today. Yesterday, 2 people had their bail revoked because they've breached the bail conditions.
Okay.
So that's
but
already
breaching the conditions is not, I wouldn't say that's the same thing as if you were accused of a new crime, because those conditions would have been outlined to you when you would have been granted bail. Now, I think there could be additional explanation as to what, the new interpretation looks like. But I wonder if one can say that the former conditions maybe were not being policed in the best way.
So Pinder says, yes, this is being described as a hardline approach, but we believe that it is what is needed here in the service of justice and to protect our families and our communities. The mandatory revocation or revocation of bail under these circumstances is part of the larger aggressive strategy to combat crime. Because right now, some people were getting fines and getting harsh warnings, like, don't do that again, all right? But now they're saying, you violated your bail conditions, you're going to jail. This is...
So I have a few initial thoughts, if I can.
This is a little different from what the Prime Minister was saying. Now look,
Just
so you
a
see, so
little.
this is why Pinder is possibly saying, I was talking about something else. He certainly was. Pinder said on January 11th that the amendments to the Bail Act were unnecessary to handle the crime problem. He said, when asked about that matter yesterday, quote, it's not a change of heart. When asked that question, it was in the context of amending the Bail Act regarding the granting of bail and the denial of bail. And I made clear that our regime provides for that and no amendments would be necessary because, as I described earlier, there are grounds for the denial of bail. So nothing's really changing here. What this bail amendment seeks to do is provide a framework for bail to be revoked, which is different, a different context and concept from when I was asked the question. I still stand by those comments, but those comments were with respect to the granting of bail and parameters for the denial of bail. Oh, my Lord. Doctor, you want to get in on this? Okay.
I just have to say 2 things. The first thing is, I am tired of people trying to undermine our level of intelligence, that we can't understand what you're saying the first time, that we may have misinterpreted what you said the first time. So you come back and re-explain it and put your foot more in your mouth. So that's one thing. The other part to that is, if you guys are not all on the same page, we're going to figure it out. And right now, are we only saying that the Bail Act is going to solve crime? Because that's my other issue with this whole thing. So there are no new offenders at all. We're saying all the crimes have always been committed by people who are reoffending. So, I mean, there's so many questions now I have based on those comments, because is that the only way we're going to solve crime? We're in a poor state. Poor state.
Yeah. Well, one more thing. Pinder noted previously that while the Privy Council has ruled that the automatic denial of bail for murder is unconstitutional, recent cases in the Court of Appeal demonstrate instances in which bail can be lawfully denied, including when the safety of a defendant is at risk and when a defendant's release poses a threat to public safety. He said yesterday that recently judges have been taking those factors into account more and opting not to grant bail in certain circumstances. So, what has changed?
Nothing. We just got more rhetoric that literally said nothing. That was just fluff of information, by the way. And
If you were late for your curfew, you're going to jail if you're out on bail. That's all that has changed because you violated your bail conditions.
Which was already in place.
If you were charged, it seems, with another murder, the judge still has the discretion to grant bail or not. So nothing has changed. They can't automatically say, no, the judge will still. And that's what the lawyers were saying yesterday as well. They said, well, no, it doesn't work like that, Mr. Prime Minister. So what are you saying? And so we're still in the same place, folks, just so you see. Don't mind the word soup here.
they need an internal meeting before anyone speaks to the press or
People were
even just
very
speak
impressed,
in general.
though. People were very impressed. Like, see, oh, look, they're working for us. But what was it?
Smoke and mirrors?
Second time you've said that today.
See, and I just got here. Smoke and mirrors? I'm like,
ah, boy.
I mean, it doesn't take, I know our average in education is really low.
Oh, no, you don't go there.
But it does not take,
dear.
I mean, that's just complete, okay. Wow. So really, how are we going to solve crime? Because that's not the only way we can solve crime. So what's the actual plan? I have been waiting to hear that.
Well, maybe the police will try to detain somebody, like break a car down in the middle of the road for some guy who's rushing home to meet his bail curfew. And then he'll violate the bail. And then, oh, boy, we got to put you in jail.
But what happens
go.
in the daylight, right? Because right now, as of the last few weeks, things have been happening when the sun is up. And I'm sure that's not curfew time. And it's also been happening in pretty public spaces where, the average citizen is there. So what are we doing about that? I haven't seen more patrols going around. I haven't seen
No, there are more patrols.
I
There
will say that
definitely,
I've been
seen
seeing
a
more.
lot more.
I
patrols.
actually was caught in
a roadblock?
again. Like, I think if today's Friday, I think I've been in at least 3 or 4.
Roadblocks?
Yeah. It's last evening. I'm trying to get over to the western side of the island, and I was like, "Why is there traffic?
Yeah, the traffic is much
Why
worse.
is there traffic?" And
So if you have to be somewhere, right? It'll often be you might need to leave 2 hours early.
And there
if
were
you need to get
differences.
somewhere.
There are differences in how this was on the six-legged roundabout. So they had officers at each one.
So you can't
right. So you
go
know
off
where
the other
you
way.
go.
But this is during work.
No, this is nighttime.
Rush hour.
Oh, like after 7 o'clock? Okay, because I would hope it not be in rush hour because I'm thinking a criminal is smart enough to not go out during that time.
Oh, no,
but I
so-
mean,
so
I'm
the
just using a little
tactics-
logic.
No, the tactics are, at least this is what I've been seeing and what I've been told. So if there is a roadblock, and I saw this myself on, I think it was at East West Highway with roadblock, there are cars that automatically have problems. So they have to stop on the side of the road to try and fix it because they see the roadblock. So it's not the car that's fixed. They just can't take the car through the roadblock. So they're going to tinker with it until the roadblock stops.
Oh, they're pretending like it has a mechanical
Yes,
issue.
Yes, so that's
For
one.
4 hours.
In the case, yes. And in some cases, they will just, or most, like last evening when I was on the line for the roadblock to check, and I was trying to figure out if they were looking for someone or if they were checking the car, because another one I was in, they were not concerned with the disc on my car. They were looking actively in the car. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But last evening I saw no less than about 3 to 5 cars literally turn off before they got to that point. So clearly they did not want their vehicles to be checked. They did not want to be seen, and they were able to evade essentially that
So
roadblock.
those roadblocks only happened after the U.S. Embassy put out that warning?
No,
they were happening before.
No, from the time the national address was, we've seen a lot more since then. There've always been roadblocks, but a lot more since the national address on crime. Yeah. Let's take this call really quickly, and then we're going to get to why you're really here, Dr. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hi, good morning. Are you there? Do we chase you away? Let's take the other call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Strachan. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well.
Excellent. Good morning to your guests also.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm not going to take up much of the time. I know you're dealing with the amendment to the bail act right now, but I just want to interject this. If the government is serious about the bail act, what they would do is restrict these people who commit murder from traveling all over the town. You put an ankle bracelet on them, monitor them. They stay in the house or on their property, the property that is put on record when they go on bail. In the United States, if you are confined to your property and you cross the road to your neighbor, you're in violation and you lose your right to be on bail. If the former Prime Minister could have the whole country locked down, you can't cross the street to go to a pump. Why is it that this government can't put the same order in place to have these men or women restricted to their property?
Yeah.
That's
So
number
house
one.
arrest, basically, you were saying.
I could actually put a real life comment on that because I had a client who had an ankle bracelet on, and that was the first. Because when they came in my office, I was like, "Oh wow, okay." And from what I
He
know,
came for counseling?
yes,
It-
for
the court ordered, or
no,
this on his
he
own?
came for actually marital counseling with his spouse, and just so we're clear, that does not stop anybody from doing anything. And I'm not telling you that. I know that from what my client said. Ankle bracelets don't do anything because he was like, "Oh yeah, I just came back last night from not being on the island." I'll just say that.
By plane? What? Okay. Thank you very much. Well, I get you. I hear your point. And many people wonder why we don't have the house arrest as well. But I don't know. Maybe that's for their safety. I'm not too sure. But so he was traveling
He was
about, eh?
out on bail on murder. Yeah.
Well, we've heard that before. We've heard. Was it within the country though, or was it? You can't say. Is it?
I will not violate that, but I will say that no. So I know we think that ankle monitors can do a lot, but the trained criminal can tell you that they prefer ankle monitor because you can take those off and put those on someone else or put those on something.
Put them on the dog.
Right.
That's
And
if they're working.
that's a whole nother thing. So, okay.
This is a text. The real smart criminals have WhatsApp and Facebook groups to evade roadblocks. Yeah.
I have actually seen one of those.
There are plenty of those. Plenty of those.
but
I really do
this
think we need to
exists
crack
really.
down those people who have those groups and everybody in the group. You need to charge them with something.
So
How will you find the group, though?
Wait.
Oh,
So
because
are
you're
we
in the
trying
group?
to? No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
But are we going to then police freedom of speech? Or is like sharing
Is
of
that what that is?
information? I mean, they're sharing information because okay, so we're looking at it from
Freedom
a
of
criminal
information,
perspective.
eh?
But what
A
about those who
different type of
literally
freedom of
do not
information.
want the inconvenience of it? What about that? No, not at all.
Well, you say you want things to get better, right?
This is what we say. So now
Okay.
we're just saying that the sharing
So
of
your
information.
freedom to tell people where folks who are in violation of the laws may run into problems, that trumps the fact that we want to crack down on people who blatantly violate our laws.
Do we have any proof though that they work? Because from I've been a child, when crime goes high, we have a lot more roadblocks. But where is the evidence that they're actually really effective in preventing crime? Or what is I've never seen the research on that. Do you know like how effective they actually are?
I don't,
Like,
but I'm thinking if you crack down on the little things, people say, well, we have no tolerance for even little offenses. And so why would you even try to go bigger?
We have tolerance for greater offenses. I mean, are we looking at all of the crimes committed inside this country?
Because we're not serious about the little ones either, right? They're gonna do this now. If there's a further lull in the murder rate, then they'll say, okay, we could relax this, and then we go back to the same pattern.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but are they actually okay? So this is a conversation someone had with me last evening about the same roadblock situation, right? So you see the police on the road for the roadblock, but do you see them inside the communities on a consistent basis where we know the crimes that are happening? Or do we see them on active patrols throughout all communities on this island? Do we see that? No, we see them more so at the roadblocks. We see them on patrol sometimes, but even when they are on patrol, are they actually stopping? Are they checking? Or are they just driving? And if they're actually driving, are they being actually vigilant as they do drive? Like these are also
That's a
other
good question.
questions. Like, have you seen that? We've seen the roadblocks, but have you
That's what I
have you
wonder,
actually
yeah.
seen?
Yeah.
I think
They used to give us numbers as to how many violations they picked up on. They found people who wanted for murder. They found people
Well,
who
perhaps
were,
that could be helpful.
Right.
How about
They
we
need to
get
say.
some statistics?
Yeah.
Maybe daily.
They haven't been
because
doing
if you've increased the roadblocks, let's get some active statistics to say, hey, during the week of ending on this day, we had 4 roadblocks, and during those 4 roadblocks, we had how many violations of these types of things occurring. So then the public could actually appreciate why you're
The
having
inconvenience.
roadblocks,
It's working.
and be like, okay, you know what, I'm in this roadblock, my car's up to date, that's fine or whatever. But I know last week they actually caught 30 persons with da 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 da.
Yeah.
So it's okay for me to, you know,
So
like the
police force,
COVID
get on
monitoring,
it.
we
Get
have
on
it every day, like the billboard or the
Right.
information. Let's do it with crime. We should do
Well, I
that.
think that part was it may have been mandated at powers higher than, so they had to kind of do that. So it's almost like,
Well,
how do
we could mandate it and do that. That's a great idea, though. They should do that.
No, I think that would be helpful. Actually, so those who listening to my voice who can impact that, how about we
Let's
have a
do that.
dashboard? Let's create a dashboard of the efficacy of roadblocks.
All right. So this text, as we go to the break, this person says here, it can't be that black and white with the bail issue. For example, if someone misses their sign in time at the police station and you later find out that they were in the hospital with an emergency, what happens in that instance? Will they automatically be sent to jail? I would hope that there would be some wiggle room.
I mean, there got to be protocols and stuff with this. If you have a patient that comes in, they have an ankle bracelet on. I
Right,
mean,
you
there
gotta
should be
tell
like a
somebody,
protocol or
right?
something like that immediately.
So
but they
I-
should actually have protocols like outlined in those
See,
cases.
but you're
How-
making sense about systemic change that one system is connected to the other.
That's true. You can't assume anything around here. Boy, we're going to be back. This is all related to what we're going to be talking about, right, Dr. E? Because a lot of people
Absolutely.
have been suffering as a result of crime and losing loved ones and going through a lot of grief. We're going to get into that with Dr. Richardson in just a bit. Stay with us.
What would you do with extra cash? Plan a trip.
Overhaul my wardrobe.
With CIBC First Caribbean, you can get comfy with savings on your mortgage cost. Buy or build your home or switch your mortgage to us and get up to US $1,000 off the loan application fee. Up to US $2,000 off home insurance. With up to US $10,000 towards switching cost, your pockets will be comfy too. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/get comfy for more information. Conditions apply.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
At Wendy's, we are different. We don't just use beef, it's fresh, never frozen. Our burgers are square because we never cut corners. Served hot off the grill with fresh lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and American cheese. We believe in fast food done right. Always serving fresh, never frozen beef. Order a hot, juicy Dave single, double, or triple. Made with fresh, never frozen beef. Now only at Wendy's. Different inside and out.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Wherever you're headed, the Custom Computers Know-How team is standing by to help in the East and the West. We now have 2 convenient locations on Patton Street in Palmdale and our newest store in the Caves Village Shopping Plaza through the Blake Road entrance. Discover the latest products by top international brands and the knowledge you need to unleash tomorrow's technology today. Drop by Custom Computers out east or out west. We're open Saturdays from 10 till 4.
Jeff, baby girl, cable guy is here.
Since the very beginning, you have been with us.
This is Paul Ray, and this is called the internet. Okay. All right, so you can
For
type
over 2 decades, we've been with you every step of the way.
Look at her go. She's in front.
I fell over and rested. So yeah, times may have changed, and so have your needs as our valued customers. but some connections stand the test of time. Rev, we're with you.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Fearless people, careless, need of harsh words spoken, and lives are broken. Forceful agent, help me out.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan, along with Deandra Cartwright. We are talking with Dr. Edrika Richardson. Dr. E, good morning. Great to have you with us.
Good
You've
morning.
already been part of the
Yeah.
conversation before. Okay, so before we get started, listen to this. We've got all kinds of people messaging us. So apparently the police do sometimes, but it's not consistently,
sometimes. So
mention what they've what
So
they've
today's the
netted from their
26th. The last report they have
roadblocks.
available on their website is the 23rd of
Mhm.
January. And I've literally looked through. The last time that they actually reported on the results of a roadblock was on the 17th of January, where they say between 9 to 11, officers from Tourism Police Division conducted road checks between Elizabeth Avenue and Marlborough Street. 14 drivers were issued citations for various traffic infractions. 35 name checks were performed. 22 vehicles were inspected.
Mhm.
Now imagine if we had that every day,
Mhm.
so that we actually know what happened.
Yeah, so they need to be a little more consistent, a lot more
Yes,
consistent with
yes.
this.
We'd feel
But-
confident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the media's we're going to need to
And we
to
can
put
actually
this
use
out
this
there.
to actually, they can compile trending statistics. So we
Right.
can actually,
Yeah, it could
let's
be
make
useful.
the numbers work for us.
Now we've got a lawyer messaging us who's saying that this is exactly what they're concerned about. What we were talking about, right? And that
Mhm.
example that the person said, if the person out on bail ends up in the hospital or something happened to them and they couldn't check in, the magistrate will have to send you to jail with this stupid amendment. So this is the text. That's the point we're trying to make to these politicians. The magistrate needs to have discretion to do justice. Every case will have different facts and circumstances. Boy, all right, so this is going to be interesting, but we will see. We will see. All right, so we have Dr. E with us to talk, and again, in studio. It's been a long time. I think since before the pandemic, we were doing a lot of Zoom.
Yes.
So great to have you with us. We're talking about dealing with family grief and loss. And as we've said, a whole lot of that has been happening in the Bahamas with
Mhm.
the murders. But
Yes.
so many people are sick and dying. We have accidents, and it's just a lot of grief and loss in this place.
And it's happening, if we look at it just from a crime perspective, both families get affected. The victim's family as well as the perpetrator's family, because you lose somebody as a result of some act. And so when that happens to families, you see a lot of emotional suffering happen. You start to see feelings of conflict and stress and strife start to come up. And so what we try to tell families going through that is that you have to remember the 3 C's, right? 3 C's are choose, connect, and communicate. You have to choose, connect, and communicate during those time. And what that means is, first, you have to choose what's best for you. And one of the things we do well in this country is keep family secrets. We choose to ignore what's actually happened. And
See, I'm making my
I know.
face because yes and no, because it seems like everybody knows everybody's business too, though.
not the relevant
Not
stuff
the relevant
that we
stuff.
should be
Okay.
working on.
The gossipy stuff.
Right, because
Ah.
right now we have a crime situation and families are an outrage about losing family members when in actuality you are harboring criminals. So that's a family secret.
Wow.
So you can't say you want things to be better when your environment you're creating is one that's completely different than what you're saying.
Hypocrisy.
And so at its best, so we have to choose that what's best for us. And sometimes that means that we have to turn these people in and we have to separate the idea that if this person truly loved you, they wouldn't put you in a situation in which you would have to do something like that. So you have to choose what's best for you. And what's best for you in that moment is to take care of yourself and others. So choose something better. We have to learn to actually and genuinely connect with one another and ask how we're doing. We have to understand that things change over time, so don't expect that things will always remain that way. And then we have to communicate. We actually have to use our words and understanding to get the information across. One thing I find by families that are going through grief and loss is they don't talk. They go to the ceremony of life, and after the ceremony of life is over, it's as if the person never existed. I deal with that so much with clients where I'm like, do you guys talk about it? How do you celebrate that person's life after their service? And they're like, no, it's something we don't touch, and that's actually horrible for grief and loss.
Well, what do you recommend? What should people be doing?
I think people should have open communication, especially if you're dealing with kids. A lot lately, I've been getting a lot of kids whose parents have passed away due to sickness, illness, or even violence. And you have to, one, let them express themselves about what that loss meant to them. And also, if they have questions and understanding of why that loss happened. Sometimes what we fail to do is explain to them why the person passed away. And when you start to do that, then kids will start to make up their own stories in their minds, and that can be really, really dangerous for them. So we have to create a space for that. With older family members, it's okay if once a year that you celebrate the person's life. It does not have to be on the anniversary of their death or their birthday, but it could be as simple as you guys sitting down together and sharing old stories. And one thing we have to do is check in and say, are you okay to take in this information at this time? Because you may want to share those stories, but other people may not be there emotionally at that place for it.
Right.
But you could decide, hey, let's do it on January 27th every year. We're going to sit down and do this. I'll be mentally prepared. And you sit down, you share stories. Maybe it is you just sit in a moment of silence. Whatever you do to commemorate that person's life. And if you feel like your memories are fading of the person as well, too, don't be afraid to pull out old pictures or sometimes we love when the memories come up on our phones, like remember what you did this day? I know a lot of times we're like, oh, wow. But those memories can help us a lot of times during the grief and loss period.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, except for when they come up on that day when you really.
Well, that person you don't want to talk to no more, right? So.
Or what happens when that happens? Like, I'm having the day and, oh, no, I didn't need to see this today because now I remember that and I'm really.
Acknowledge. First thing you have to do is admit and acknowledge that you're not okay at that moment. And then you need to deal with what exactly are you not okay with? Was it the fact that you're sad? Name the emotion. The other thing we don't do is we don't name what it is, or we kind of lump them all together. Maybe you're angry. Maybe at that point you're feeling really lonely. So if you are, I would say try to reach out and connect with somebody, or even change your environment, right? Maybe you don't want to connect with another person, but you go ahead and you sit in a place that has a lot of people around. Sometimes just being around that presence can be healthy for you. Other things you may do is you may go ahead and distract yourself with some mindless television, believe it or not. That can help a lot of times too, to maybe laugh about what is to switch your mind from a more negative one to a more positive one.
Now, what if that's all you do? And you're always finding a distraction, television or alcohol or something else, as opposed to really dealing with what you're going through?
There's only so much time you can run for yourself is what I always tell people, right? And so at some point, you're going to actually have to deal with the things that you've been avoiding. And so if you keep distracting yourself, the question is why? What are you so afraid of? Most of us fear that if we, quote unquote, lose it, and I say lose it in quotations because a lot of times we're not going to lose it, but that fear, that anxiety of the unknown makes us afraid to even go there with our emotional selves. Believe it, more often than not, you're not going to lose it. You're not going to end up in Sandilands. Let me just put that out there. You're just going to be at a place where maybe you don't recognize yourself for a minute because it's new. And if you feel like it may get that bad, that's when you go ahead and seek professional help to guide you through that process. But you have to deal with it. Because if you don't deal with it, it's going to deal with you. And this is why we see people turning to substance use a lot of times, because they want to avoid those emotions. They want to distract themselves from their realities. And right now we need to live in what's happening right now.
Need to be able to focus, maybe.
Focus, be there, be present, be there for one another. I saw a quote the other day that was just so true. Like, we are all on borrowed time. What are you doing with your time? Are you distracting yourself? Are you avoiding your life? Are you being conscious of where you are in every moment and trying to be present? And like you said, I haven't been in studio since before the pandemic, but if the pandemic has taught us anything, is that time is so valuable. It's like, oh, we're a few years past it and we are all forgetting that message.
Yeah.
Remember, what are you doing with your time? Do you wake up every day and say, today, I want to use this time wisely? Or are you just making excuses for why your life is not the way you want it to be? Have you checked your expectations lately? Are you literally living your life?
Yeah. Are you surprised that we forgot this so quickly?
I am not surprised because what the human mind is, it's very resilient. And what it tends to do is that when things get better, we switch back to old behaviors. And this is what we're doing now. We see it. Historically, I think this is, even when we look at crime, this is kind of our pattern of how crime goes after a while. And so
we've been here before.
We have
absolutely.
been here before.
And the tough talk always comes, and then we get all relaxed and lax.
So that's why I'm hopeful that things will get better. I just hope they get better faster than they did historically, so that we can make some changes. Because change is always uncomfortable for anybody at any point, but we have to do it if we want to grow. You have two choices in life. You either repeat or evolve. What are you choosing to do?
All right, let's talk specifically about people dealing with loss and grief for someone who's been murdered. And clearly we see that here. We've got a lot of people who think revenge is the best way to deal with this. Let's talk about that and how we know the results. This won't end well.
No.
But to people thinking that either I need to have it myself or the state needs to execute somebody, the pros, the cons of all of that.
One, first thought I think to myself is that if we're only living in a mentality of tit for tat behavior, we're essentially raising a bunch of psychopaths in our country.
Oh dear, you may have to say that again.
If we're only living tit for tat, we're raising a bunch of psychopaths in our country, and we're in a seriously poor state, and we need to figure out what is going with our family dynamics. And the country I grew up in was not like that, to the point that you're so worried that a person doesn't have enough emotional capacity to process the fact that, yes, you did something wrong to me, and I don't have to enact revenge upon you in order to feel justice or justified for a situation. Then we're in a really, really poor state, which means that the state of the family in our country is in a dire need for help. So we have to start from in the households. How are we instilling good values and morals in the family structure? If that is not there, then we are essentially teaching, and it starts with kids, right? When we teach them how to share. And maybe you have that one sibling who never really wants to share, or if you get something that's a little bit more than them, then they try to take it out. It starts from the family. If your parents aren't correcting that behavior, then you have these children who grow up to become adults who believe that I should always get everything that I want. And so what do you think then happens when something they feel is done to them? Then they need to revenge that thing. And so when people ask questions like that, the first thing I think is, what is being done in that family, in that household that you've learned through your time growing up that the only way to get revenge is to hurt or inflict harm on somebody else? Then we're in a poor state with family dynamics in our country, where we're not teaching love, we're not teaching morals, we're not teaching the value of human life.
Do we not have enough evidence to say that is the case right now?
I think the evidence that I'm seeing as of late is that the idea of what a normal or traditional family is in our country no longer exists, but we fail to accept that reality. And because we fail to accept that reality, the community hasn't been able to rally around and provide the additional support to certain families. And so people are turning to where they feel loved. And for a lot of the young men and sometimes the young women right now, it is the gang lifestyle because it feels like a family. I've been saying this so often because when we look at the family structure now, you don't see parents raising children. You see children raising children. And as a result of that, you have somebody who has an undeveloped brain raising another person with an undeveloped brain. What do you think is going to happen? We have a systemic issue going on in our families. And unless we start to, as a community, one of the things we could do if we want to help as citizens is to really look out for our neighbors and say, how can I help my neighbor have more love in their household? Because believe it or not, and I don't mean that in a way that some of y'all need to keep your hands to yourself, let's be very clear on that. But are we doing stuff in our communities to spread love and teach certain things? I didn't learn everything just from my household, but I lived in a community in which you would go and play at the other kids' house and you would see how their family structure was and you would learn things from there. Are we doing those things? Are we sharing those morals and values anymore? We put so much pressure on when kids go to school, the teachers are supposed to do all these things. Right. But if they do it 8 to 4 and then they go home and there's no structure, there's nobody in the household, it's not being reinforced. It cannot be their sole responsibility to teach your children how to be healthy citizens. Our families in our country are in dire need of restructuring.
Yeah. Wow. All right, so we want some tips from you, Dr. E, in a bit. Let's see if we can squeeze a couple of these calls in really quickly and hear what our listeners have to say. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
All right, Poppy, the lady making an sense. I want to ask a couple questions. Hang up and listen. First of all, DeAndre Cartwright. I heard her name before. I just can't remember where I hear it, right? Maybe she could bring us up today.
She used to be on the Eye Opener on Saturdays.
Okay, I know I hear her name, DeAndre Cartwright. Next thing, she sound not young, but young, right? And she making a lot of sense. So, next thing, I wonder...
So we got two people. We got Dr. E and DeAndre in the studio with us.
Okay, I want to talk about Scott. That's Miss Cartwright who was talking last, right?
No, that was Dr. E. Dr. E. Dr. E.
Oh, so I sound young? Thank you.
Dr. E, I will finish talking to you. Good morning, Miss Cartwright. I hear your name many times.
Good morning.
The one who was talking just now. She making a lot of sense. She sound young. I was wondering, like, if, not too young, mature and making a lot of sense. I was wondering if her parents teach her things from the home, what she's saying today, or some of that, and some are learning it from school, college, or something like that, or a degree, what she have. The next thing, I believe most of the things she's saying is we have to take some personal responsibilities for the things we doing in our life and decisions we making. But what I want to ask you, Miss Dean, or that ain't Miss Carter, the next lady.
Dr. Richardson, Dr. E. We call her Dr. E.
Tell me something, Dr. E. If you had to make the decision, it sounds like you saying we need to make our personal decision. And sound like some of the things you're saying is what I hear Dr. Pete say many times, going back to basics the way how it used to be. Not the touching and all that like you say, and you mean that, and all them other rest of crazy stuff. The good stuff, right?
Yes.
If you had to make decisions, like how governments have to make decisions for the citizens, right? And the situation will be many things, right? I know you can, legislate morality, what they say before, right? But if some decision what government is made to say, they say it's supposed to make it better for the citizen. You sound smart for real, right? And I know you're not in the position to make decisions, right? And I believe if we had more people like you who's saying what you're saying this morning to make decisions and encouraging us, we'd be heading in a better direction. But what was some of the things, or one of the first things, what you would start doing right now if you was like in government and you had to make that decisions, whatever that knowledge would you get there? Then I want to know if your parents didn't teach you that or you learned some of that from school. You really impressed me this morning. You know what's good, too, to know that we still get plenty behemoths right here in this country, Dwight. And Dwight used to be finding them, the Guardian is be finding them, show in the morning, you just be finding these people to bring on, give us the knowledge and the understanding. So hats off to the behemoths here who ain't give up. You could have been in a different country. I wish these people was in a position to make decisions, and then you wish these people could go, and then when they get in there to make decisions, they just mess up. But I'll hang up, listen, y'all keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you very much. You remember all that?
I think I remember. The first part I would say is, yes, some of the things that I am talking about were taught from my home life, but they were also I would say taught differently in college, as well as throughout my training, and throughout the clients that I've had over the years. You learn different things as you work and grow over time. One of the changes that I would make first is I think we need to teach human behavior from elementary school throughout high school. I think,
like what, psychology classes?
I think we need to teach psychology classes because we can't teach. I remember, I think we had a class in schools. It's been a minute, so I'm a little mature. We taught like family life or something, but I don't remember being taught about what a healthy family is and healthy family dynamics are. I remember being taught I should know how basics of sewing and cooking. I remember that being taught, but I don't recall that being taught during school. So if we look at it from a systemic issue, I think it starts with first teaching parents when I always said I wish I had the power. The real power I had would be to give people the ability to procreate or not. Because some people should really not be parents.
Oh, boy.
That would be the real thing I would legislate. But after that, I think if you know a person, when people do get pregnant, I think we should start teaching them from that stage how to be healthy parents. And that could be as simple as doctors giving out pamphlets about healthy parenting practices. And then it should be reinforced when they're in the hospital or the birthing center giving birth. Then when the kids go to school, it should be taught there. And so when I say human behavior training, it starts from conception all the way throughout high school, middle school, throughout your time. And then it gets reinforced in your household because now your parents know what healthy family life looks like. And so that is the only way we can change the way things are happening now. We have to teach core values.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what people are going to say, hey, I mean, these kids are barely learning arithmetic and reading. Why would we want to teach them psychology? Elaborate a bit more on why that's going to be important for us to understand how our minds work.
Because you just said it. It's our minds. If we don't understand how our minds work or what the structure of the mind is built up and how powerful it is, that means that any information that a person attempts to learn may not be comprehended, right? So when you learn things about like the mind and what the mind is, you understand how information is understood, how it's processed, how it's kept, how it's restructured, and over time, how new information is acquired. So if we're not teaching people the basics of their own human body and how the mind works, then what exactly are we teaching them? We wonder why kids can't learn now. Have we started to look at what learning is and taught them about learning, the different styles of learning. So maybe when we look at the structure of education, we wouldn't have a D or F average because we'll teach them about learning. Then they can learn the information, comprehend it. And, that's what I'm talking about. Right. If you teach basic things like that from a young age, or emotions, right? What are emotions? How to have them, how to have healthy emotions, how to talk to other people. I'm talking about basic life skills. So it's not just psychology. Psychology is basic life skills of human dynamics. So all I'm saying is throughout the whole process of education, it should be human dynamic training in addition to learning things like math and English, because if you don't know how to be in good and healthy relationships, you're really not helping yourselves in the long term.
Yeah. And we talk about it all the time, right? The lack of conflict resolution skills. If people knew, well, if I said this to this person, this might cause a problem, and it might be best for me to not escalate a situation.
Or walk away.
Yeah. Deandra, you got something there?
Well, I like to research, and I do know a thing or two about government. But I just pulled it up, and I'm looking at right now the Department of Education. It's called the National Pacing Guide for grades 7 to 9 for health and family life for junior high school 22 and 23. This is quite recent, and they literally have here. Then grade 7, they're taught about the Bahamian family. They're taught about types of families. They're taught about advantages and disadvantages of types of family. All families have needs, roles and responsibilities, influences on family values, understanding each other. Now, this is what they're supposed to be taught. Is it actually?
Right? Is that too late?
I was about to say that.
No, and so I contrasted it because, sorry, I do go overboard when I start researching. While you were talking, I just started, right? But just to say, before I get to my second point, to pick up where you say about being early or not, in grade 8, they actually go through the family life cycle, and then grade 9, they're talking about how families change, and then they go through multicultural influences, and they talk about the impact of death, reproduction, contraceptive values and manners.
Which grade is that?
Grade 8 and 9. I was blending the two of them, right? So now I was looking for something earlier than that because this is 7 to 9, and I'm searching through the document that's for grades 1 through 3. And they do have references to the family. They do have references to emotions, and they do have markers to see if the child can express themselves about wellness. Do they actually know enough about it?
Oh.
But now my question is this actually being employed? And how is it being employed? Can we actually say definitively that the children are being taught these? Like emotional, what I'm looking at right here, it says life skills, right? Emotional coping skills. It's looking at self-awareness skills, self-acceptance skills, healthy self-management skills, coping with emotions such as anger,
one class, one day during the school year, or is it like repeated? Is it reinforced?
So they call, so this right here is, I'm looking at something called the scope and sequence chart. for standard 1.4, which is demonstrate the ability to use mental and emotional health knowledge, skills, and strategies to enhance wellness. And then they trend that from grades 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But it's an introduction for grade 1 and development for grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and then in grade 5 they have.
This is the Bahamas Ministry of Education?
I was wondering.
Yes.
And this is in effect now? Does it appear to you, Dr. E, that we are doing these things on a consistent basis?
No, and why I want to say I'd like to understand, and I have colleagues, so I'm going to ask them about that, how that's being implemented, because that to me sounds like, when you get your report card and it says, does the kid get along with others? Do they have friends? That looks like a checkbox to me, not necessarily that it's being taught and reinforced. And so I'm not going to say that they don't do it. But what I'm going to say is that the level in which it may be happening now is not being evident in the generations we've seen who might have learned from that curriculum.
Yeah.
So then the question is, are we going back to the curriculum to make some addendums to it? And then, so if we look at it systemically.
2012.
2012.
If we look at this,
that's not.
Do you know how old our curriculums are?
If we look at that from, that's just education. We don't want to get there. But so we did something the other day. We did a prayer circle, right? How are we teaching healthy family in churches then, right? Because that's one of the biggest things we like to promote in our country. So are we teaching healthy family and human behavior through that as another means? Because I don't want to just get an education as one way to do it. And a lot of families share religion as one of the things they do together to create family. So how are they making sure that happens in the church system besides saying church parents should be man and woman and procreate only through marriage? I would like to know how they're teaching healthy family and healthy family behaviors and healthy family dynamics. Because if you just show up to church on Sunday looking good and everybody look like they have good church clothes, but when you go home, nobody is talking, communicating, or understanding one another, then we are being hypocrites.
Yeah. Okay, we have about a minute left. Let's talk some more tips. What are we going to do? We have challenges, right? You can see that people are not dealing with their grief and loss well at all. More tips for those folks who are struggling right now.
First thing I would say is to acknowledge that you are still going through some grief and loss. That's the first thing you can do. And acknowledgement may mean for you to accept that, and people be very intentional about telling people they should get over things. There is not a timer on how long somebody goes through grief and loss. So one of the things you want to do is that acknowledge that's where you're at, share it with people who are close around you so that they can be mindful of that and treat you with a little kindness, especially in those times where they may see that your mood is shifting. If you notice after you've acknowledged it, I would say that you want to understand exactly what you're still processing when it comes to grief and loss. Is it hurt? Is it sadness? Are you just depressed that the person's not there? Are you lonely? Have you decided to engage in other healthy behaviors? And that could be as simple as choosing a healthy weekly activity you want to do for yourself, or maybe journaling about what this process has mean for you. The other things you want to always be doing, whether you're grief and loss or otherwise, is be taking care of yourself physically. One of the things we do well is that when we're not good, we let our self-care and our physical wellness go. That's one of the number one indicators that something is wrong. So go ahead and make sure you're eating, getting enough sleep, even doing daily functions as taking showers, believe it or not. That's one of the things we'll start to see decline.
Or overeating.
Overeating. Other things you want to do is making sure that you are making healthy connections. Are you going around and engaging with others? Are you just isolating yourself? So those are some changes that you can make. And then I would encourage you that let the grief and loss teach you how to propel your life forward and help somebody else. If that means that you've decided that your mission of the other person's life is to commit to your community and do one healthy act for the year or every week or every month. If that means that you go ahead and check on somebody else you know who may be going through a hard time, do something in service of the person rather than just sit in those emotions and say that I cannot do anything anymore. It is up to you to make those changes because we all just need a little help sometimes.
Dr. E, you gonna stick around for a little bit?
I'll stick around.
I mean, so we can see you more often
Yes.
in studio. Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Okay. We appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to have you back with us, Dr. Enrica Richardson. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great advice this morning. Thank you. All right, let's take a break. We're going to be back with Morning Blend Business. When we come back, we're looking at the marketing trends of 2024 in our Morning Brand series. After the break, stay with us.
The lessons I've learned, playing the fire and not getting burned. I may not know what you're going through, but time is the space between me and you. Life carries on, it goes on. Just say die, now that would be pessimistic. In your mind, we can walk across water. Please don't cry, it's just a prayer for the dying. I just don't know what's gotten to me. Been crossing that bridge with lessons I've learned. Playing the fire and not getting burned. I may not know what you're going through, but time is the space between me and you. There is a line through that window. Oh, don't say yes while people say no. Life carries on.
Wherever you're headed, the Custom Computers Know-How team is standing by to help guide you in the East and the West. We now have 2 convenient locations on Patton Street in Palmdale and our newest store in the Caves Village Shopping Plaza through the Blake Road entrance. Discover the latest products by top international brands and the knowledge you need to unleash tomorrow's technology today. Drop by Custom Computers out east or out west. We're open Saturdays from 10 till 4.
Jump, baby girl, cable guy is here.
Since the very beginning, you have been with us.
This is Paul Wade, and this is called the internet.
Okay.
All right, so you can
For
type
over 2 decades, we've been with you every step of the way.
Weibo is total class. Look at her go. She's in front.
I fell over here. I'm president.
So yeah, times may have changed, and so have your needs as our valued customers. But some connections stand the test of time. Rev, we're with you.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Friday, January 26th, 2024. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Deandra Cartwright today. And it's time for a monthly Morning Brand series with Royanne Dean of Communications Design and Digital Solutions Agency, Onward Advisors. Royanne, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. All right, so today we're talking about the marketing trends, what we think are going to be the marketing trends of 2024. This is exciting. How many are there? Or what do we give us an overview before we get into each one?
Well, there There are several.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm going to do is present what I think are going to be the top 5.
Okay.
The top 5 trends.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So
Can I guess that AI is one?
That has to be in the top.
That has to be in there, right?
Correct.
Okay. We
You're
know
so
that.
trendy.
Right. All right, so you go on.
But it's important to recognize that global marketing trends are not necessarily all going to trickle down to the Bahamas. So it's finding the trends that I think are going to apply or can be easily or more easily applied here than some are more easily applied than others. So these are the top 5 that I think are going to have the most impact.
Okay.
Drum roll? Do I get a drum roll?
Drum roll.
You're gonna do a little. All right, number 1.
Next time.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to list these a little bit in order, but they're all, I think, of equal significance. The first is, I think this is just an ongoing trend in how brands and communication and consumers are evolving, and that is communicating your brand values. So, we always talk about purpose-driven marketing, but it is really that consumers more and more, and especially with Gen Z consumers, they are looking for companies that align with their values. We saw this really take shape with the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests and companies that in the U.S. that aligned with social causes. So we see more and more of this happening. It hasn't really translated in the way that it has in other markets here, but we do know that, for example, if a company says that they are doing this for the environment, people here in this market are increasingly concerned about the environment, and you want to feel like you're supporting a company that shares the values that you share. So
why do you think that is?
To consumers.
Well, why do you think the gaming market is so different in that regard? That doesn't necessarily move people here.
I think there are a few things at play, right? I think not just in the Bahamian market, but in the Caribbean as a whole, we don't tend to have activist consumers. So we will say that we don't like this brand or this company, but we're still going to go there. Sometimes that's a lack of competition. And sometimes it's like, well, nobody's going to do anything anyway, right? So you still support it. But, well, I mean, the point is that if a company says, and again, that's where you get into things like greenwashing. If a company says they're doing this, they support the environment, this may not be something they do on a consistent basis, but it does get consumers to think that this company has shares their interests and has something in mind to do good for the community. So those are things that people do care about. Okay. So that's one trend. The other thing is how you communicate these things. So TikTok has come and basically taken over, at least for some brands, and how they market to their consumers. And this type of short form content. So, TikTok videos are very short. They're going to continue to grow in popularity, get a lot of views. So all the stories that are on Instagram, on YouTube, all of those things are going to continue to be important. The other is connected to how you communicate as blog posts. So it's kind of the opposite of the short form content videos. Blog posts are written, they're longer, but they're very important for companies and how they communicate, because that allows you to also demonstrate your core values and the things that are important and just things that you think that your audience want to know. But on the website, it helps to drive traffic to the website. So it works in a few ways. It's been around for a long time, but I still think this is going to be a trend. And getting to your guess, Dwight, yes, AI is going to be increasingly important in the way that marketeers do what they do at work.
That's number 3.
So marketing.
Okay, before you get to AI, because that's good.
Yes.
Again, you have to focus on that one carefully. But with the how you communicate, do you think it's a make or break now with things like TikTok? If a company doesn't do this, will they completely lose Gen Z? Are they just going to not look at you at all? Or does it depend on the industry you're in?
It depends on the company. It depends on who what are they selling and who's their audience? Not everybody is on TikTok. And not everybody is going to, that's not a part of everyone's culture. So for example, okay, let me say this. If it's not an authentic part of how your brand communicates, and you can't fake it, right? If you put a video on TikTok and it's not funny or interesting or relevant to your audience, like that's not doing any good for your organization. So in communicating in this type of content, you have to find a way to do that in an authentic manner.
Because we had an intern here who told us, oh yeah, you need to get Guardian Radio on TikTok, and like, okay, and they're like,
well, it depends on who's listening to Guardian Radio, right? So but you have to find a way to do that, as I mentioned, in a way that is authentic to the brand and something that feels real, because it has to connect with people. If it doesn't connect with people, it's not going to work. And
do you think
again, your audience?
Me and a couple of the other hosts maybe doing some little dances, that's not going to connect, do you think?
It might.
It might.
That goes back to knowing your audience, right? Not all of your audience is going to be on TikTok. Some of them may be on YouTube. But if you think that you have content that's going to connect with your audience, and this is a real way for your brand to communicate, then you should try it. But again, if you are a financial services company and you just have somebody reading a long diatribe and you put that on TikTok, that's not really going to work.
Okay.
That's not really connecting with your audience in a way that is authentic to your brand on that platform.
Okay. Excellent. So somebody's messaging us right now saying you have sound bites that might be able to work on TikTok. Maybe what Dr. E just said about how we're raising a bunch of psychopaths. Maybe that might go viral. All right.
You're looking for the controversial ones.
Right, well, that's the thing. Okay. So let's get to AI.
So AI, yes. So this is still very much a unknown and growing and really interesting area. It's impacting pretty much every industry and the way that we all work. The important thing to remember about AI is, one, in the role of marketing, marketeers are going to be, or are really increasingly a part of driving business growth, not just on the event side and, the communication side, but increasingly those analytics that come from the data from social media is a part of how companies are growing their audience and growing their business. And AI is helping to do that. So in developing content, in another global trend, which is premiumization. So if you have offerings that are at certain tiers, certain price points, then there's space at the top. If you can personalize and make them more premium, that's another area in a global trend, and AI is helping companies to do that, especially on the personalization side. But the note that I want to add here is that it is not something to be afraid of, right? You still need people to work with AI. So you're not going to say, okay, I'm just going to let AI do everything and then I don't need people anymore. You still need people. But
now
AI
you're
is helping
saying
to
that.
make
Do business people get that? Because some people seem to do they understand that you're still going to need people, that they cannot replace everybody with AI?
I'm not sure, but I think that the first thing is to get them to understand exactly what AI is and what it does.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you see a lot of evidence of local companies using AI, but I have not. So I think that it is really an education around what AI is, and that the fact that it can enhance what people are doing. So it doesn't necessarily replace. It will replace some tasks, but then that means that rather than spending 30 minutes on reviewing a sheet, which is the same sheet that everybody needs to fill out, that can be automated, and then that person, rather than doing that, they can do something that is more meaningful to creating value for the business, and that also applies to marketing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, they're not too many. We've had a few. We've had Commonwealth Building Supplies on CVS Bahamas. They've talked about how they've implemented AI, but you're right.
Yes.
We're not moving as quickly as some other places. Okay, so that's number 3.
Well, this is a great segue because the next trend I wanted to tie into that was building a better customer experience, right? So that's a great example because the Commonwealth Building Supplies, when you go on their website, if you want to find something, A, you can find it. B, you can see the stock levels, and then you can order it and you can have it delivered, which is a great customer experience. If you don't want to have to go into the actual location, right? So that improves that customer experience. And what that does is, even in that case, there's not necessarily human intervention, although if you need help, you can probably call them or email them and somebody will reply to you. That means that helps to build customer loyalty, right? But the idea is that even in an age of increasing automation and AI, you still need that human touch to be able to address the needs of your customers and improve the customer experience, because you're going to be able to get data, you're going to be able to get analytics and look at those. Those quantitative measurements are always very important, but truly understanding the customer journey, why customers are doing what they're doing, and being able to make those improvements in the customer experience is going to build long-term customer loyalty, which means that your customer value, lifetime value, can also increase.
And you have that as one of the top 5 marketing trends of 2024. And this applies to the Bahamian business. Okay,
I do,
because we just had a show 2 days ago about customer service and how horrible it seems to be getting since the pandemic. So this is we wish it were true. How confident are you?
I think that this is going to increase or improve. I hope that it is a trend. Let me just say, because the thing is that even when if you have to go someplace, sometimes you go to the place because the people who are helping you there are very friendly.
Yeah.
So
and
you
not
go,
because they're the best.
Your experience in there. Pardon?
And not because they're the best, but because
they may be they may be like the balance may be there for you, right? It may be that you can get to it easily. They have what you want, but if you had other options, maybe you might check those out, but you were more inclined to go to this place because you go there and Miss Jones can help you out at the corner, at the counter, and she's very friendly with you. But the customer experience is really like how that customer feels. Do they feel like they're getting a good value for the time and the money that they're spending with your company?
Okay.
So that can be something really small. If you go to a bar or a pub that you normally go to, that's a part of your customer experience. The way that the people in the establishment treat you.
Wonderful. Okay. So number 5.
Yes, number 5. This is a bit of like a wish list thing, but on a global basis, there's more of a holistic measurement of success. And this is really from a marketing perspective, but it also just exemplifies how much marketing has become more part of the core business operation. So now, rather than just saying, okay, we want to have increased shareholder value, what can we do to sell? Now, corporate metrics are looking more at the importance of long-term value creation. So how do we see this company in the long term? How do we see the value to stakeholders, including shareholders, in the long term? How do we look at inclusivity? How do we want to impact our community in a positive way? And what is our environmental impact? And you don't have to be a big company to necessarily think about those things. If you think about your environmental impact, how about using less paper? How about having your team use cups? When I was at Bahamar, we had so we didn't have to use plastic cups. To get water from the cooler, that type thing. So these are things that companies are thinking about just as a holistic term of measuring success rather than just, bottom line figures. So that's where I think the top 5 trends, it's a mixture of global trends that I think can be applicable to this market.
Yeah. Right. Wow. And how much do you really think Bahamian companies are thinking along these lines? Like, we really do need to have a strategy in each one of these. Where do we stand exactly? If you had to give a report card grade.
If I had to give a report card grade, interesting. I think that some companies absolutely 100% get it. I don't think that those companies are in the majority. I believe that if there is more competition, companies in industries, I would say like the insurance industry, for example, would be more inclined to, to enhance the way that they operate, for example. So I think if I had to give a grade, like just general, like very, very broad, I would say C. I would give it a C. I would give it a C. There are companies that, especially companies that have head offices that are regional or internationally based, they do pay attention to metrics like ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance metrics, because those metrics matter, and they are becoming increasingly important on a global basis. So you see now that accounting practices are now being aligned to measure those things and actually demonstrate where they have an ROI, and those things do become important for institutional investment. So we're not there yet. I think that we can be on a path to there, or at least start the discussions around that. And there are discussions around ESG pillars that have started, but there is nothing that's officially implemented yet.
All right. I know we only have a couple minutes left. Let's take this call really quickly. Good morning, caller on Morning Brand on Morning Blend Business. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Dwight, and your guest. Didn't guess the name, but good morning nonetheless. How
You're doing well. We've got Deandra Cartwright with us, and Roy Ann Dean is our guest for this segment.
Okay, right. Yeah, I wanted to comment on something from the last segment with your guest, right? But I'll just keep it to the marketing, seeing as though you moved on already.
Yes.
You were saying about TikTok, right, Dwight? And your guest was saying it depends on your audience, right? Where you would want to launch your marketing plan. But I'm thinking to myself, right? If you're a business and you want to reach a greater market, or you want to reach a different segment of the market, or you want to expand your business, or you want to grow your listenership, shouldn't your marketing be the tool or one of the tools that you use to accomplish that, rather than using it as a tool to, as you would have put it earlier, limit your reach and just sticking in the arena of your audience? I mean, that seems like, it's almost like putting the cart before the horse, when the marketing should be the effective tool, or one of the effective tools that helps you to drive wherever you want your audience to be, or wherever you want to grow your business to be, or wherever you want to grow your listenership to be. That's all I wanted to add to the conversation. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thanks a lot. Roy Ann, you have a response to that?
Sure. It goes back to really understanding what you're selling, what your brand is about, and who's buying your product, or who you want to buy your product. But if you are selling, I can't even think of anything at the moment. If you're selling, let's say you're selling checks, and this is no shade to like check selling companies, right? Are you going to be on TikTok? Maybe not, because your audience on TikTok is probably not using checks, right? So it's really understanding what your offering is, who your audience is for that offering, what's your market for that offering, and where are they? If you are selling a certain type of product or service, not every platform is for you. Not everybody is on Facebook. Sometimes LinkedIn is a better platform depending on the offering, depending on where your audience is. TikTok would be a better audience. For example, if you have a fashion brand, maybe TikTok is where you want to go. If you're reaching a certain age, TikTok may be where you want to be. Are you going to be on LinkedIn talking about what Kim Kardashian is wearing and this. Maybe not. Maybe that's not where your audience is.
Okay.
So it's not limiting. It's really understanding who you're selling to.
All right, so really quickly, I know we mentioned a couple companies already, and this is we're going to do some free advertising perhaps here, I guess. But for companies that get some of these things, we talked about AI and CVS, what they're doing, and how that's helped them build a better customer experience. But which company would you say here that's not affiliated with an American company, not a franchise or something, a local company that is communicating their brand values? Well, what would you say? Who would you say? One or two, maybe.
You want me to name names, right?
I'm just curious. I'm curious. Yeah, we can do that. Let's see, and then we might debate you on this, but let's just see. Let's see, and then people might get what you mean by communicating brand values. Yes, I get it. I no, I don't think so. But let's see. Yeah, you can do it one time here. Mm-hmm.
Okay. My gosh, you really put me on the spot here. Who was communicating? I'm trying to think of
because this is the challenge. I'm not sure if we've got too many here that are doing this well. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I can think of the franchises, yeah, but the local companies, I have to wonder. Are you stumped? Okay.
Good question. I see what you did there. But here's the thing though. If I say they're the core values, I'll go back. I used the insurance industry before, but I'll go back to the insurance industry. I think that those companies do a fair job of communicating their values. Let's say, for example, with J.S. Johnson, you understand that they're going to be with you, through when you need them, and they're about stability and assurance and trust. So that's clearly communicated. I mean, they've been using the same thing for 30 years, but that's still clearly communicated, right? So I think in that way, that's been something that's consistent. You understand what the company is about before you engage with the company. So I think that's a clear communication. They are involved in the local community. So, you do get an understanding of who they are as a company.
So some of the listeners are messaging, they're calling off some local restaurants and so interesting. And then a couple people were saying some of the telecommunications companies that they're trying. Maybe. So we all have work to do, obviously, right? In this regard. Yeah.
But I think that this is a part of where having an understanding of the brand and then developing a strategy around that, where that becomes important. And another one that I would say, just having participated in some of the panel discussions on digital transformation that Cable Bahamas did, you can see where their values about increasing the digital impact of the Bahamas, that you can see where that's trickling through in their activities, promotions, et cetera, but also in their advertising alone. You can see where they're doing things to impact the community. So I wouldn't say that there are no companies that are doing it. It's to think about it top of mind could be a little hard, but there are companies that are doing it. Some companies get it, as I mentioned. Those companies are the ones that are more likely to have a team or a strategy in place that can a team to implement that strategy.
Yeah.
Or they would be the ones to seek support and say, this is who we are and this is what we would like to accomplish, but how do we do that? And this is where, say, for example, a company like Onward, this is where we come in to develop that communication strategy based on, what your brand is. And some brands, they haven't articulated what their core values are, but that is a part of what that strategy development is.
Right. Okay, so
it's important in the long run for long-term customer value and growth.
yeah, a couple more people saying CBS Bahamas definitely, and quite a few saying Alive, Cable Bahamas, and BTC are heavy on this.
Yes.
So okay, all right. Roy Andy, a lot to think about this year, this morning, and for the rest of the year, the top marketing trends of 2024. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, and we look forward to many more.
Thank you too. Always a pleasure.
Roy Andy with Onward Advisors. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. And DeAndre, you have to depart as well. So it's been a pleasure, and you're going to be back with us on Monday. Okay,
Bright
looking
and
forward
early
to
on
that.
Monday morning.
And Steven should be back next week, Friday. I'm going to take a break right now and be back with the final few minutes of Morning with Them Business right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
Stay with us.
Beulah, gal, can you believe this? We are now the patrol queens of the neighborhood.
We now large and in charge. So we need to check out what's going on in everybody's yard. What about that gun that we know that Junior and his homeboys just ran out? Can we report that too?
Of course we can.
But we could be in deep trouble if they find out.
We need to report what we see, Beulah. When you call Crime Stoppers, they just answer your call in Miami.
So then we can report everything? Guns, where they hiding the drugs, who shoot who part of which gang, or who disturbing the peace with the loud music and the motorcycles.
Then our neighborhood will be the best in the Bahamas, and everybody gonna want to come live here. And then our house price will go up, gal.
So what we waiting on? What's the number?
If you see something, say something. Let us all pitch in and stop the crime before it's your time. Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands. Or text us through the Crack Crime Bahamas app. Stop the crime before it's your time.
Struggling to repay your loan? Let us help you get back on track with payment that suits your financial situation and improve your credit score and credit report with the Bahamas Credit Bureau. Inquire about our restructured loans today. Call us at 356-7764.
Ready to save? You can put $100 into the CFAL Savings Express Plan and make sure your money keeps growing. Earn interest on your savings while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
Struggling to repay your loan? Let us help you get back on track with payment terms that suits your financial situation and improve your credit score and credit report with the Bahamas Credit Bureau. Inquire about our restructured loans today. Call us at 356-7764.
Doctors Hospital has reimagined primary care. We have invested to improve our health system, ensuring that accessible, affordable, world-class clinical care is closer to you. We understand that your relationship with a primary care provider shapes the foundation of your overall health. Our new modern primary care facilities are where critical diagnoses and true personalized treatment begins. With locations across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Exuma, we invite you to experience the Doctors Hospital difference. Book your next appointment at clinics.doctorshosp.com.
To all homeowners, this is your reminder that Scotiabank encourages all taxpayers to sell outstanding real property taxes before March 31st, 2024. We want to ensure that you're up to date on all tax obligations. Failure to comply may affect your monthly mortgage payments and the total balance owing under your mortgage. We invite you to contact the RPT office of the Department of Inland Revenue or your nearest branch or bank officer if you require additional information or assistance. Stay on top of your taxes with Scotiabank.
There's a new electric vehicle in town. The Jack brand SUVs, trucks, sedans, and commercial vans available only at Easy Car Sales, home of the fully electric vehicle. For a powerful, smooth ride at a fraction of the cost to drive, leave the pump behind and hit the road with Jack. Visit easy242.com to see our brand new Jack models and drop into Easy Car Sales for a test drive. It'll have you singing. Hit the road with Jack and don't you pump gas no more.
Earning zero interest on your savings at the bank? With as little as $100, you can start earning interest on your money while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank with the CFAL Savings Express Plan. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit cfal.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It is time for your morning business report brought to you by CFAL. Prime Minister Philip Davis again affirming his administration's commitment to lowering the cost of living for Bahamians over the medium to long term. Delivering the keynote address at the 33rd annual Bahamas Business Outlook yesterday, Davis said the cost of doing business and the cost of living have been driven by the nation's reliance on imports. Though it has settled from its peak in summer 2023, inflation continues to apply pressure to the pockets of residents. The Prime Minister said efforts will be made to take advantage of a number of international trade agreements the Bahamas has signed on to but has not utilized. Read more on that in today's Guardian Business section. President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Ian Roll, says that the port continues to be open to discussions with the government regarding funds it owes for services rendered by the government. Last week, Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell said although the Davis administration has abandoned its plan to acquire GBPA, it is still pursuing efforts to get all that it's owed by the GBPA for services provided to Freeport. Roll saying he didn't want to comment on that particular matter, but that they are open to discussions with the government. In his budget communication to the Parliament last May, Prime Minister Philip Davis spoke to the need for decisive action regarding concerns about the compliance of the GBPA to the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. The central bank will continue to push for exchange control reforms that improve the benefits the economy receives on capital transactions. That's according to Central Bank Governor John Roll. He said that with those reforms, the bank expects to keep the process sustainable in a way that does not undermine the country's ability to maintain the fixed exchange rate system. And Director of Aviation Dr. Kenneth Romer says that Bahamas Air's minor issue, which grounded an aircraft on Crooked Island, will have no impact on the air carrier's schedule. In a statement yesterday, Bahamas Air confirmed that an incident occurred during Flight 402, which was en route to Acklands before continuing to Nassau from Crooked Island. During the flight, there was an engine defect. Romer says that it's anticipated that the aircraft would soon return to service. Overseas, the British government has called off post-Brexit trade talks with Canada after discussions broke down over disagreements related to the import and export of beef and cheese. The two countries have been negotiating a new trade deal over the past 2 years since Britain fully left the European Union. Trade between the two has largely continued under the same deal that was originally brokered when Britain was a member of the bloc. In a statement late Thursday, the UK government said it remains open to restarting talks in the future, but that there was no progress so far. Annual trade between the two countries is valued at around £26 billion or $33 billion. Over time, as the discussions pushed ahead, Canadian negotiators came under mounting pressure from their beef industry and domestic cheese makers. Tesla is recalling nearly 200,000 vehicles in the U.S. because the backup camera may not function while the car is in reverse. The recall covers certain models Y, S, and X from the 2023 model year. All are equipped with the full self-driving computer 4.0 and run software version 2023.44.30 through 2023.44.30.6 or 2023.44.100. The company says in documents posted by the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration that software instability may prevent the camera image from showing images while the Teslas are in reverse. And the estate of George Carlin, the comedian, is suing the media company behind a fake hour-long comedy special that purportedly uses artificial intelligence to recreate the late stand-up comic's style and material. The lawsuit, filed in federal court in Los Angeles on Thursday, asks that a judge order the podcast outlet Dudesy to immediately take down the audio special George Carlin, I'm Glad I'm Dead, in which a synthesis of Carlin delivers commentary on current events. Carlin died back in 2008. Carlin's daughter saying in a statement that the work is a poorly executed facsimile cobbled together by unscrupulous individuals to capitalize on the extraordinary goodwill my father established with his adoring fan base. The Carlin estate and its executor are named as plaintiffs in the suit, which alleges that violations of Carlin's right of publicity and copyright. The named defendants are Dudesy and podcast hosts Will Sasso and Chad Kultzgen. In your Market Watch, recapping trading on the basics from Thursday, your market movers, Bank of the Bahamas moving 2,000 shares, closing down 25 cents to $4. Consolidated Water up 5 cents to $6.56. Emira Incorporated up 16 cents, closing at $8.88. The BISX All-Share Index closing at 2,920.38, down 0.05. That's your Market Watch, and that is your Morning Business Report, brought to you by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. And that's going to do it for Morning Blend Business today. Everybody have a safe, wonderful weekend. Start thinking about what you're going to be doing for 242 Day coming up in February 24th. Dwight, Strachan, have a great day, everybody. Great weekend. I'll be back on Monday morning with more Morning Blend and Morning Blend Business right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next.